All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Straight Talk every Saturday night at 8 p.m. and every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And like always, we're going to bring it right off, hot off the presses. And tonight, we're going to be covering quite a bit. I have a lot of X, but they don't last very long, like 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 4 minutes. And some of them are just articles, but they are precise. And tonight we're going to be covering what is going on in the Middle East with the Arab uh, um, contingency that is going on and protection. What's up, Brother Willie? I really appreciate you being here like always. Man, it's going to be hot tonight because we are just 2 days away from the United States of Africa taking its first day as a continental powerhouse. And when I am telling you that the continent and the diaspora are going to create more and more and more billionaires, you ain't seen nothing yet, man. And the technology that is associated with that, and what that means, and how that means, and why that means, and the Islamic NATO, 6 million fighting men with the highest and most advanced technology. You ain't seen shit yet, bro. Just hold on. So tonight, we're going to be really covering what the hell is going on with America, which is nothing. That America is standing on its last leg, and it has no fighting power. It has no teeth, but all bark. Sad to say, but what we're going to see is the takeover of America by the black man and woman. It has to happen. This white bitch ass boy, pedophile ass motherfucker, don't deserve power because he has no moral authority, no backbone in terms of what is right and integrity, and he has no foresight, hindsight, no sight, blind sight. This motherfucker just doing what he want to do because he think he can do what he want. The world doesn't work that way, white boy, white girl. Your days are over, and it's going to get worse and worse and worse and worse. So tonight, brother Willie, man, we're going to put it down. I'm hoping that my boy can come on, but I don't know. But we're going to put it down, or at the very least, I am going to put it down and to let people know it's time. There's nothing stopping us from doing what we got to do. The black man and the black woman, we're the only ones with the moral responsibility and the moral authority to bring this world back on the brink of disaster after where it's at right now. Because this white, funky ass, shitty boy don't know what the fuck he doing. Trump is about the dumbest motherfucker I know. He is going to resign. Trust me on this shit. From what I'm understanding, the Iran has some very powerful videos of him in the Epstein file. It's going to force him to give it up. J.D. Vance will be the president, and he's not going to last very long. So all of this heathenist actions and reactions and all of this that these white motherfuckers are doing, they're coming down. They are the unrighteous seed of Satan. They love iniquity. They love the seven deadly sins: greed, gluttony, sloth, envy, pride, wrath, and lust. And it shall be given to the righteous, the black man or woman. All of this glory that these white motherfuckers have been getting from the world is coming back on us because we are the descendants of the righteous. And every act known to man that has been recorded that this white boy has done, baby, 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 bye. Because your ancestors, white boy, Your ancestors have had signed, sealed, and delivered your death certificate a long time ago. You're not gonna have the luxury of your wannabe bitch ass doing what you want to do when you want to do it, how you want to do it, and never suffering the consequences of it. There are consequences and repercussions for doing positive things, and you get blessings like that. But you can never ever own up to what you've done. You have slept in that bed for so long that I'm white and I say so. It belongs on your motherfucking head, but it don't belong on the planet where you got 7.8 billion black folks. Bitch, you don't eat. I would doubt there's 100 million of you motherfuckers left. I would doubt. I would seriously doubt. You ain't going nowhere. That vaccine has castrated you chemically. That has wiped out 150 million of you motherfuckers. 85% of you motherfuckers took that vaccine. Good. Because the world cannot afford you motherfuckers no more. China ain't forgot what the fuck you did with the opium war and what you did in Southeast Asia and Asia and all of America and all the world brown skinned people live. We're coming. We're here. And we're going to beat your motherfucking ass economically, politically, spiritually, and physically. And when it is necessary, kids kill you. We got a brother from 67 to 87 who was the sheriff down there in Macon, Alabama. We're going to cover that story, Brother Willie, and what that brother did. They ain't telling you that shit. They ain't telling you about that. But we're going to cover that. And that's what needs to happen. So tonight, I want to make sure I get it on the share screen so we can get the party started and right off the bat what it is all about. So tonight, this one is called, a lot of these are not that long, Brother Willie, you know what I mean? But it's perfect. Oh, and this is one $800 drone just disabled Israel's $3.5 billion Iron Dome. Dude, man, no weapon formed against us shall prosper. So let's get it started.
And what was accidentally revealed in that moment exposed an intelligence failure so profound, so fundamental, that it reframes this entire crisis from the very beginning. Steve Witkoff, Donald Trump's personal envoy, the man running every diplomatic back channel America, has opened with Iran. The man sitting inside every classified intelligence briefing on this crisis went on live television and said that Trump is curious about why Iran hasn't capitulated. Why, with 2 carrier strike groups and 200 combat aircraft positioned within strike range, Iran hasn't simply come forward and surrendered its nuclear program. He stumbled on the word capitulated. He pulled it back. He searched for a softer phrase and couldn't find one. His face said what his words almost did. America's most senior Iran negotiator, man closest to every classified detail of this confrontation, publicly admitted on camera that the United States does not understand why Iran will not surrender, not disagrees with Iran's position, not finds Iran's demands unreasonable. America's top diplomat said, in plain language, that American strategic planners genuinely cannot explain Iranian psychology at the most basic operational level. That is not a diplomatic stumble. That is a confession. And it is the most consequential foreign policy confession America has made since Colin Powell held up that vial at the United Nations in February 2003 until the world Saddam Hussein had weapons of mass destruction. We know how that ended. This time, the stakes are higher. To understand the magnitude of what Witkoff revealed, you need to understand what American strategic planners believed going into this crisis and why that belief was catastrophically wrong from the beginning. The entire architecture of American coercive diplomacy, sanctions regimes, carrier deployments, presidential ultimatums with specific deadlines, rests on a single theoretical foundation called rational deterrence. The idea that any government confronted with an overwhelming, incredible threat to its own survival will rationally calculate the costs of resistance versus the costs of compliance, and eventually choose compliance when the math becomes sufficiently unfavorable. Put enough pressure on the survival question, deploy enough ships, issue a deadline specific enough, any government eventually comes to the table on your terms. This theory has driven American foreign policy in the Middle East for 3 decades. It drove the sanctions strategy against Iraq in the 1990s. It drove the JCPOA nuclear negotiations in 2015. It drove the maximum pressure campaign Trump launched against Iran in 2018. And it drove this current escalation: carrier deployments, the 15-day ultimatum, the deliberate military buildup designed to make Iranian commanders look at their options and blink. The theory assumes rational actors, governments that value institutional survival above any specific policy position. What America apparently never modeled, what its intelligence community never put at the operational center of its Iran assessment, is that the man making Iran's decisions already resolved the survival question decades ago, and his answer was not the one Washington assumed. Ali Khamenei is 85 years old, supreme leader since 1989. Before that, he spent years in the Shah's prisons, tortured for his political beliefs. He helped build the Islamic Republic from revolution and chaos. He watched America kill Qasem Soleimani, by every account one of his closest personal confidants, and responded not by negotiating, but by launching ballistic missiles at American bases. He watched Israel bomb Iranian facilities and assassinate Iranian scientists, and responded by rebuilding everything faster, burying it deeper underground. This is not a man who has held power for 47 years because he fears consequences. This is a man who decided, at some specific moment in a Shah's prison cell, that the Islamic Republic was worth any price. That surrendering to American demands was a worse outcome than dying in resistance to them. Witkoff on Fox News told the world, through his verbal stumbling, that America never seriously integrated this understanding into its strike planning. The carriers were deployed, the deadline was set, strike packages were prepared, all of it built on the assumption that, at some pressure threshold, the man in Tehran would choose survival over resistance. He made his choice decades before the ships arrived. This is not the first time America has made this exact mistake, and the historical pattern makes Witkoff's confession genuinely alarming, rather than merely embarrassing. America has a documented, consistent, historically verifiable record of winning every conventional military engagement it enters, while failing to achieve its political objectives against adversaries fighting for something weapons cannot extinguish. Vietnam. America won every significant military engagement of that conflict. The Tet Offensive of 1968, widely remembered as a turning point, was actually a decisive military defeat for North Vietnamese forces that achieved virtually none of its tactical objectives. America won the battles, consistently, and lost the war because the North Vietnamese were fighting for national reunification, a cause that firepower could kill people for, but could not destroy. They simply outlasted American political will. The last helicopter left Saigon in April 1975. Afghanistan. American Special Forces toppled the Taliban government in 90 days in 2001, one of the fastest military campaigns of modern history. 20 years, $2 trillion, and 2,400 American combat deaths later, the Taliban walked back into Kabul the morning after the last American aircraft departed. They had been fighting for the same thing in 2021 that they were fighting for in 2001. Mullah Omar said in 2001 that his fighters were prepared to fight for 100 years if necessary, that they had already surrendered their fate to God and feared no outcome America could impose on them. History proved it was an accurate strategic assessment, not extremist bravado. Khamenei has not used those exact words, but his government killed an estimated 7,000 of its own citizens during protest crackdowns. In late 2022, without offering a single political concession, it crushed the uprising, told its commanders their orders stand, and kept building missiles. A government willing to absorb 7,000 dead civilians rather than compromise is not a government that will surrender because aircraft carriers are visible on satellite imagery. America brought the world's most powerful navy to Iran's doorstep and discovered it had been trying to coerce a man who had already chosen his answer before the ships ever moved. On the same weekend as Witkoff's Fox News appearance, Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi appeared on CBS and said something that seems completely contradictory to everything Khamenei's posture suggests. He said there was a good chance for a diplomatic solution. He confirmed Iran's team was actively working on a draft proposal with elements designed to accommodate both sides' concerns. He said Iran continues negotiations in good faith, the supreme leader installing 4-layer successor governments with standing orders to keep fighting after he's gone. A foreign minister working seriously on a diplomatic proposal to prevent a war. Most strategic planning models treat these as mutually exclusive. Either you're preparing to fight or you're preparing to negotiate. Most governments do one or the other. Very few can hold both with equal operational seriousness simultaneously. Iran has spent 47 years perfecting precisely this capability, and it is the capability that has broken every American strategic model applied to this crisis. The two tracks are not contradictory. They are complementary instruments of a single coherent strategy. Negotiate seriously enough to give European and Asian capitals a reason to counsel restraint in Washington. to prevent international consensus from forming around endorsing a strike, to keep diplomatic channels open long enough for underground facility hardening to continue, while simultaneously preparing thoroughly enough that if bombing comes anyway, Iran survives it, retaliates, and is still standing, still governed, and still negotiating from the other side of the destruction. Araghchi, working on a deal text, and Khamenei installing successor governors are the same strategy through different instruments. America has faced adversaries that negotiate to stall without genuine military preparation. America has faced adversaries that prepare militarily while rejecting all diplomacy. America has never faced an adversary that executes both tracks with equal discipline simultaneously. Witkoff's bewildered television appearance was the moment this reality became visible to everyone watching. A senior Iranian official confirmed to Reuters that the core remaining gaps are sanctions relief and the status of uranium enrichment. Those two issues. That's what separates a deal from a war. America's offer is surrender meaningful uranium enrichment, accept our verification regime, constrain your missile program, and we will provide sanctions relief, on our terms, revocable at our discretion. Iran's response, embedded in every negotiating position since 2018, is 4 words. We watched you leave. In May 2018, the Trump administration unilaterally withdrew from the JCPOA, the 2015 nuclear agreement, after Iran had complied with every single provision for 3 consecutive years. Every international verification body confirmed Iranian compliance. America left anyway, and Iran watched its economy collapse anyway, despite having honored its commitments completely. Then, Iran watched what happened to the leaders who trusted American guarantees and gave up their weapons. Muammar Gaddafi formally abandoned Libya's weapons of mass destruction program in December 2003 in exchange for diplomatic normalization. He received international recognition and sanctions relief. In October 2011, he was found hiding in a drainage ditch and killed by rebels whose uprising NATO air power had supported. His weapons abandonment hadn't protected him. It had removed the one deterrent that might have made Western military intervention too costly to attempt. Saddam Hussein dismantled his actual WMD programs in the 1990s. He died in a noose in December 2006. Kim Jong-un crossed the nuclear threshold in 2006. North Korea still exists as a government. Kim Jong-un still runs it. No American administration has seriously attempted regime change in North Korea since the nuclear tests. Because the calculus of a nuclear-armed adversary is fundamentally different from the calculus of a conventional armed one. Khamenei absorbed this lesson completely. He's not building nuclear capability because he wants to bomb Israel. He's building it because Gaddafi gave his up and died in a ditch. Saddam gave his up and died in a noose. And Kim kept his and is still in power. The insurance policy is the point. And no carrier deployment, no 15-day deadline, no sanctions package changes what history has already proven about what happens to leaders who surrender their deterrent to American promises. Here is the element of Iranian contingency planning that American targeting analysts are most alarmed about, and that almost no mainstream coverage has adequately explained. Ali Larijani, former parliament speaker, longtime senior Iranian political figure, one of the most internationally connected members of the Islamic Republic's establishment, has been designated Iran's shadow governor. Individual Khamenei chose to run Iran if every named official in the formal command structure is killed or incapacitated in an American decapitation strike. Larijani is known personally to Vladimir Putin, known to Xi Jinping's government, known to the Sultan of Oman, who has historically served as back-channel intermediary between Iran and the West, known to European foreign ministers and every serious Middle East diplomatic interlocutor. He could pick up the phone the morning after American strikes kill Iran's named leadership and call Moscow, Beijing, Brussels, and Muscat and say, Iran is still here. Iran is still governed. Iran is still fighting. Now let's talk about what comes next. American decapitation doctrine rests on a specific assumption. Killing the named political leadership of an adversary creates a power vacuum that generates chaos, which creates an opening for regime change. It is the assumption that drove targeting in the opening hours of the 2003 Iraq invasion. Larijani's designated role means that assumption fails completely against Iran. There is no vacuum. There's a pre-positioned, internationally recognized, pre-authorized successor government with pre-delegated military launch authority, ready to function the morning after any decapitation strike. The chaos America is betting on never materializes, because Iran specifically designed its command architecture to deny America exactly that chaos. Here is the picture assembled in full. America deployed 2 carrier strike groups, pre-positioned 400 Tomahawk missiles, assembled over 200 combat aircraft, issued a 15-day ultimatum, and the 85-year-old man at the center of its strategic calculation responded by appearing publicly in a mosque on the day American targeting analysts were trying to locate him, installing 4 layers of successor government, pre-delegating military launch authority to field commanders, and sending his foreign minister to Geneva to work on a draft proposal simultaneously. And America's top diplomatic envoy went on television and admitted he cannot explain why this isn't working. The history of American military confrontation with adversaries willing to absorb extraordinary costs for ideological commitments delivers a consistent verdict. Technological and economic superiority is overwhelming against armies. It is unavailing against movements, against people fighting for something that weapons can kill individuals for but cannot extinguish. Khamenei is not running a conventional military. He's running a 47-year revolutionary project that he decided was worth any price before most of the people currently serving in his military were born. He watched Gaddafi die in a ditch after giving up his weapons. He watched Saddam die in a noose. He watched Kim survive every American threat because the nuclear threshold changed the calculation permanently. He made his strategic decision long before the carriers arrived. The 15-day deadline did not change it. The Supreme Court ruling that strip trumps tariff leverage did not change it. The Russian-linked American war plan did not produce a phone call to Washington saying Iran is prepared to surrender its enrichment program. Witkoff asked on live television the question America's intelligence community apparently never answered. Why won't they capitulate? The answer was available in every history book covering the last 47 years of Iranian politics and the last 25 years of American Middle East policy, and the specific fates of every leader who trusted American guarantees and every leader who didn't. The man who isn't afraid to die already told America his answer. America just wasn't listening carefully enough to hear it, until the presidential envoy accidentally broadcast the confession to the world on a Saturday morning on Fox News. Geneva is coming. The draft proposal is arriving. The military clock is still running. And the 85-year-old man who has already made his peace with every possible outcome is still standing in mosques, still appointing successor governments, and still waiting to find out whether America can finally accept what it is actually dealing with before it's too late to matter.
One down and quite a few more to go. Look, what I want to do is to cover this as best as possible and to make sure that you guys are understanding what it's all about. And that is simply understanding where America sits as far as its military capacity and world influence in political and economic and military hegemony. It's over. And as this and these videos get played, I'm hoping that you can make that same, not assumption, but conclusion. You see, you can't do wrong and expect for right to come to you. And being evil will always destroy itself in the end, and those who take part in it. It never fails. So let's go to the next one.
The Israeli regime of military occupation and colonialism and apartheid was deeply allied with the apartheid regime of South Africa. The two regimes of apartheid were born the same year.
Initially, the relationship was very hostile. Apartheid's leaders, the National Party leaders, the Afrikaners, were deeply anti-Semitic. What you see change is after the 1967 war. Once Israel begins the occupation of the West Bank, once you see newly independent African states move away from Israel, you start to see an alliance build up between Israel and apartheid South Africa. They both see themselves as besieged, militarily besieged. And that is where the relationship, which had become increasingly friendly, starts to become quite intimate. You have the astonishing sight of a white South African Prime Minister who'd been interned as a Nazi visiting Yad Vashem, the Holocaust Memorial. That's the point of view. See that this relationship has become close enough that history is related. South Africa was looking for somebody that was in the same boat, basically, in some ways, and was happy to play that up. Israel was embarrassed by it. Many years later, I got to ask Steve Peres, when he was president of Israel, about that letter and about that relationship, and he just dismissed it. Israel's position, like that of the US and the UK, is to then say, well, of course, we were on the side of the ANC and Mandela and against apartheid all a lot. And there's a quick rewriting of history. The Palestinian cause versus the ANC's cause. So clearly that relationship with Israel post-apartheid government was never going to be present and is not.
The position taken by the South African government has improved rather significantly lately, with the president of South Africa saying that Israel is acting like an apartheid regime, it's an apartheid type. Going the next step of imposing sanctions on apartheid Israel, as was done against apartheid South Africa, is not there yet. And South Africa plays a very important role in its moral thing. We need more pressure.
So with that video of South Africa teaming up with Israel, you got to realize that white folks are going to be white folks no matter what. They will support each other through thick and thin, even though they know they're wrong, because they are white and they are right in their mindset. As you have seen, it's said among dark-skinned people. You see, the white boy has a serious mental problem. He has a very deep inferiority complex and little dick in comparison to the black man. That's what it's all about. They have no culture, they have no language, they have nothing. Everything that these so-called white people have comes from black people. No ifs, no ands, no buts. And it's high time for us to leave them alone. Let them drown in their own fucking piss and shit. Because that's all they brought to the table. Death, destruction, disease, and despair. That's it. And so when we go to the next video, I want you to carry that with you so you can get a better picture of what this is all about. $2,000 missile can sink a $40 billion warship. America's biggest problem. I'll be right back.
Is the manufacturing cost of the weapon that nearly sent 5,000 American sailors to the bottom of the Red Sea. The Pentagon released its classified after-action report on the December incident involving the USS Gerald R. Ford, America's newest and most advanced aircraft carrier. The report, which leaked to Defense News within hours of its congressional briefing, contains an admission that naval strategists have been dreading for decades. A single anti-ship missile, manufactured using commercially available components, costing less than a used Honda Civic, penetrated 5 layers of the most sophisticated naval defense system ever constructed, and struck the Gerald R. Ford 47 feet above the waterline. The carrier survived, barely. Emergency damage control teams worked for 19 hours to contain flooding that came within 3 compartments of reaching the reactor spaces. The ship limped to Bahrain with a 4-degree list and will require 14 months of repairs at a cost the Navy estimates at $2.3 billion. And I need you to hear this exactly as the after-action report stated it. The engagement demonstrated that current layered defense architecture, despite $4.7 billion in integrated systems, cannot guarantee interception of low-cost, mass-produced anti-ship threats employing terminal evasive maneuvers. The cost-exchange ratio fundamentally favors the attacker. The cost exchange ratio fundamentally favors the attacker. That sentence buried on page 47 of a classified document represents the most significant admission of strategic vulnerability in American naval history. The missile that struck the Ford cost approximately $2,000 to manufacture. The ship that nearly sank cost $13.3 billion to build. The carrier air wing aboard cost another $8 billion. The escort ships protecting the carrier group represent an additional $18 billion in naval assets. The total value of what that $2,000 missile threatened exceeds $40 billion. That is a cost ratio of 1 to 20 million. For every dollar an adversary spends on these weapons, America must spend $20 million defending against them. And the Pentagon just admitted in writing that even spending $20 million to 1 doesn't guarantee survival. Defense stocks didn't wait for analysts to finish reading the report. Huntington Ingalls, the sole manufacturer of American aircraft carriers, dropped 16% before noon, the steepest single-day decline since the company was spun off from Northrop Grumman. General Dynamics fell 11%. BWX Technologies, which builds naval nuclear reactors, crashed 19%. The smart money made its calculation instantly. It calculated that the entire theory of American naval power, the aircraft carrier battle group as the supreme instrument of force projection, has a fatal vulnerability that cannot be solved with more spending. But here's the part that most people are missing. Here is the thing that transforms this from a single embarrassing incident into an existential crisis for American military strategy. The missile that hit the Ford wasn't Iranian, it wasn't Chinese, it wasn't Russian, it was Yemeni, built by Houthi rebels using designs shared online and components purchased from commercial electronic suppliers in Shenzhen. If a militia with no navy, no air force, and no formal military industrial base can put a $2,000 missile into a $40 billion carrier group, what happens when America faces an adversary that actually knows what it's doing? Stay with me, because the answer to that question is something the Pentagon has known for years and has been desperately hoping the American public never discovers. Let me explain the physics of why cheap missiles defeat expensive ships, and why there's no technological solution that changes this equation. A modern anti-ship missile weighs approximately 500 to 1,500 kilograms. It travels at speeds between Mach 0.8 for subsonic variants and Mach 10 for the latest hypersonic design. It approaches its target from an altitude as low as 5 meters above the wavetops, using terrain masking and sea-skimming profiles that minimize radar detection range. The ship it targets weighs between 10,000 and 100,000 tons. It cannot maneuver faster than 30 knots. It cannot hide. It cannot run. Its only defense is to detect the incoming missile and destroy it before impact. Now here's the mathematics that keeps American admirals awake at night. A ship's radar horizon against a sea-skimming missile is approximately 15 to 25 kilometers, depending on radar height and atmospheric conditions. A missile traveling at Mach 3 covers that distance in approximately 20 to 35 seconds. In that window, the ship must detect the missile, track it, calculate an intercept solution, launch a defensive weapon, and guide that weapon to impact. The Standard Missile 6, America's most capable ship defense weapon, costs $4.8 million per round. The rolling airframe missile, the last-ditch close-in defense, costs $998,000 per round. The Phalanx close-in weapon system fires tungsten rounds at a cost of approximately $30 per shell, but requires the missile to enter within 2 kilometers to engage, leaving less than 3 seconds of engagement time at Mach 3. Now calculate what happens when an adversary fires not 1 missile, but 50, or 500, or 5,000. China has manufactured an estimated 3,000 to 5,000 anti-ship missiles designed specifically to target American carriers. The DF-21D, called the Carrier Killer, has a range of 1,500 kilometers and approaches its target at Mach 10. The YJ-18 uses a subsonic cruise phase followed by a Mach 3 terminal sprint. The CM-401 employs unpredictable maneuvering patterns that defeat current interception algorithms. Each of these missiles cost between $500,000 and $2 million to produce. The cheapest variants, based on Houthi-style designs manufactured at scale, could cost as little as $10,000 to $50,000 each. A saturation attack of 200 missiles against a carrier strike group would cost China approximately $100 million.
Tai Chi is the best medicine for men over 50, and it's a key to long-lasting health and vitality.
Million to $400 million.
What has it going on?
The DF-21D, called the Carrier Killer, has a range of 1,500 kilometers and approaches its target at Mach 10. The YJ-18 uses a subsonic cruise phase followed by a Mach 3 terminal sprint. The CM-401 employs unpredictable maneuvering patterns that defeat current interception algorithms. Each of these missiles cost between $500,000 and $2 million to produce. The The cheapest variants, based on healthy style designs manufactured at scale, could cost as little as $10,000 to $50,000 each. A saturation attack of 200 missiles against a carrier strike group would cost China approximately $100 million to $400 million.
What in the world? What is going on?
Terminal sprint. The CM401 employs unpredictable maneuvering patterns that defeat current interception algorithms. Each of these missiles cost between $500,000 and $2 million to produce. The cheapest variants, based on healthy style designs manufactured at scale, could cost as little as $10,000 to $50,000 each. A saturation attack of 200 missiles against a carrier strike group would cost China approximately $100 million to $400 million.
No, it's still going up with the minutes, the seconds. What the hell is going on? Hold on, let's get it. But it's not playing. Okay. What in the world is going on? All right, you know what? I'm going to put this in the chat so that, because I don't know what's going on. It's counting, but there's no video being played. So let me put that into the chat. And people who are or will be watching later can watch it in its entirety. So I apologize for that. I don't know what the heck is going on, but the video is just not playing. So we're gonna get out of this.
Over 17,000. Classified at the highest level, but which has leaked repeatedly to defense journalists over the past decade. In war games simulating a Taiwan Strait conflict, American carrier strike groups suffer catastrophic losses within the first 72 hours. The 2023 war game, codenamed Pacific Fury, resulted in the simulated loss of 2 carriers and 7 escorts. Over 17,000 simulated American casualties in 3 days. The war game assumed current Chinese capabilities, not future capabilities, not capabilities China is developing. Current capabilities deployed today. Read that one more time. The Pentagon's own war games show that American carriers cannot survive a peer conflict, and they have known this for at least a decade. So why does America keep building carriers? The answer is a combination of institutional momentum, congressional politics, and strategic denial that should concern every American taxpayer. The Gerald R. Ford-class carriers cost $13.3 billion each. The Navy plans to build 4 of them. The shipyard that builds them, Newport News in Virginia, employs 25,000 workers. The congressional delegation from Virginia has ensured that carrier construction continues, regardless of what war games demonstrate. The Navy's institutional identity is built around carrier aviation. Admirals rise through the ranks commanding carriers. The entire culture of American naval power revolves around these ships. Admitting that carriers are obsolete would require the Navy to reinvent itself entirely. And strategically, no one wants to admit that the weapons America has spent trillions building can be defeated by weapons that cost less than a motorcycle. But the physics don't care about institutional culture. The mathematics don't care about congressional politics. And adversaries like China, Iran, and Russia have studied American vulnerabilities for decades and built their entire military strategies around exploiting them. Here's what this means for every American watching this video. The United States Navy has 11 aircraft carriers. Each one costs approximately $13 billion. Each one carries approximately 5,000 sailors. Each one is protected by escort ships worth another $25 billion and carrying another 3,000 personnel. The entire carrier fleet represents over $150 billion in capital ships alone. Add the aircraft, the personnel training, the support infrastructure, and the lifetime operating costs, and the total investment exceeds $1 trillion. That trillion-dollar fleet can be threatened by missiles costing less than the average American wedding. China understands this. Iran understands this. The Houthis just demonstrated it publicly. And the Pentagon's own after-action report admits that current defenses cannot guarantee protection. Now look at what this means for America's global strategy. American military dominance since World War II has rested on one capability above all others, the ability to project power anywhere on Earth using carrier-based aviation. Persian Gulf, the South China Sea, the Mediterranean, the Western Pacific. Wherever America needed to exert force, carriers provided the platform. If carriers cannot survive in contested waters, that capability evaporates. America cannot conduct airstrikes against Iran if carriers cannot operate in the Persian Gulf. America cannot defend Taiwan if carriers cannot approach the Taiwan Strait. America cannot enforce freedom of navigation in the South China Sea if carriers become expensive targets rather than unassailable fortresses. The entire architecture of American global power rests on platforms that a $2,000 missile can destroy. Here's the question that cuts through every Pentagon budget, every congressional hearing, every shipyard press release, the one question that determines everything else. Is there a solution? Let me give you the honest answer. The answer that defense reformers have been shouting for decades while institutional interests drown them out. Yes, there is a solution, but it requires America to abandon the weapon it has built its entire naval strategy around for 80 years. The solution is distributed lethality. Instead of concentrating $40 billion of capability on one vulnerable target, distribute that capability across hundreds of smaller, cheaper, expendable platforms. Unmanned surface vessels costing $10 million each, missile barges costing $50 million each, submarine-launched drones that can operate for weeks without support. If you have 400 cheap platforms instead of one expensive platform, saturation attacks become impossible. The adversary must find and destroy each platform individually. The cost exchange ratio reverses. Suddenly, the defender has the advantage. The Navy knows this. The Pentagon knows this. Defense analysts have published thousands of papers explaining exactly this transition. But carriers employ 25,000 shipyard workers in Virginia. Carriers make admirals into fleet commanders. Carriers look impressive in photographs with presidents standing on the deck. And so America continues building $40 billion targets, while adversaries mass-produce $2,000 missiles to destroy them. The Ford incident should have been the wake-up call. It should have triggered an immediate strategic review. It should have launched an emergency transition to distributed platforms. Instead, Congress just approved funding for the fifth Ford-class carrier, another $13 billion target, another 5,000 sailors who will sail into waters with a mathematics guarantee that some of them will not return. The cost exchange ratio fundamentally favors the attacker. The Pentagon wrote that sentence themselves. They classified it. It leaked anyway, and nothing has changed. Because admitting the truth would require admitting that $1 trillion in carriers, the symbol of American naval dominance, the pride of the fleet, has become the most expensive vulnerability in military history. $2,000 to build, $40 billion to destroy. That is the equation. That is America's biggest problem. And until someone in Washington has the courage to say it publicly and act on it, American sailors will continue sailing on ships that mathematics says cannot survive the wars they were built to fight. The Ford survived by luck and 19 hours of desperate damage control. The next carrier might not be so fortunate, and the missile that sinks it might cost less.
Wow, okay. That was kind of abrupt. But now, look, this is where we are. I mean, it's beyond the pale now. It is truly a matter of, as what this AI guy was saying, mathematical probability. We don't have it, you guys. We're so into looking powerful, but we're not. Abajo es apaga la TV en la habitación. We look powerful, but we're not. We're playing the Wizard of Oz game. And all of these trillions upon trillions of dollars could have gone toward America and making it truly great again. Taking care of the elderly, taking care of those who are Social Security, taking care of our veterans and our highway, byways, bridges. But no, that is not the case. No, we gotta spend on military might that does not even have teeth. I don't know what to tell you, but the truth is what it is.
Before you buy the Natural Healing Handbook, here's what just changed.
I have to be honest. I was totally wrong.
In the law with white people. Bama.
Now this guy, Sheriff Lucia Davenport Emerson, from 67 to 87, Macon County, Alabama. Became the sheriff. The white people of the police force resigned. He hired war veterans, and I'm just going to let you hear the story.
Elected a black sheriff in 1966, and the Klan put a $50,000 bounty on his head, but what Lucius Amerson did next made them regret it forever.
Being a Negro sheriff, do you think you'll have difficulty enforcing the law with white people?
This is something that I have talked about on several occasions with different people. As a matter of fact, I think that it will be much easier in working with the white people. I don't think that I will have any trouble at all.
Why is that? Why would it be easier for a Negro sheriff to enforce the law with whites?
When every white deputy quit, Amerson hired Vietnam veterans who killed for America and now killed for justice. His deputies didn't arrest Klan members. They disappeared them. 17 Klan leaders vanished during his 8 years. Must have left town, Amerson would say. The FBI investigated, but every black person in Macon County stayed silent. When the Klan shot up his house, 2 Klan families' barns mysteriously burned. When they bombed his office, 3 Grand Dragons got found floating in the river. He turned their terror tactics against them. White folks stopped wearing sheets real quick when the hunter became hunted.
Well, I think that throughout my campaign speeches, I have made the statement that if I am elected sheriff, I'm going to enforce the law impartially, and whoever commits a crime will be apprehended, regardless of whether it's white or Negro.
Jameson, what do you think might happen that first Saturday night when you have to confront a white man who's been drinking?
I don't think anything will happen other than he'll get arrested.
You don't think you might have more difficulty because of your color?
I don't think so.
Was race and color a big factor in the election?
Well, the fact that I never did get involved in race and color, I don't think it was. I don't think it was a factor at all. Do you think you got any of the white voters on in the county, or do you have any indication of any white support? Oh, yes, I feel like I got a lot of white support.
Alabama erased him from history books because he proved black power could destroy white supremacy. The Klan offered $50,000 for his head, but lost 20 members learning why you don't threaten a black sheriff with nothing to lose. Google won't show you this truth.
And this is the history that they don't want us to know about Sheriff Lucius Anderson down there in Macon County, the first elected black sheriff after Reconstruction. And you can just tell by that interview that he was not scared, being a Vietnam War veteran. He said that all the deputies on the force quit when he got elected. So what did he do? He hired black men. And when the Klan firebombed his house, 3 of them got found in the river. When they shot up his house or shot up his office, 2 of their barns burned. And when the FBI investigated, the black people of that era did the same thing as the white people did when they lynched Negroes. They stayed silent. And this was a man, I'm going to show you an interview of him, that you can tell that he stood on business and he was not scared. This is what's missing from the black law enforcement these days when they have to go against the racist judges, clerks, prosecutors. This man stood up against them, and the people elected him for 20 years as their sheriff. And he died a nice old ripe age. Because why? When you're standing on principle, when you have God behind you, can't nothing stop you. Here's a report from that time in 1966 when they were asking the people, especially the white people, about how good would he be as a sheriff. And this is what they said.
Small events sometimes mirror major change. And one of the biggest symbols of changing racial patterns in the American South will occur in the middle of January here in Tuskegee, Alabama, when a man named Lucius Amerson mounts these steps and enters the office of sheriff, becoming thereby the first Negro to be elected sheriff of this century and the only Negro sheriff in the United States. What kind of sheriff do you think you'll make?
A damn fool.
Why is that?
What does he know about law enforcement? Does he know anything? I don't know if he does.
You think it's a bad thing for the county for him to be elected?
Yes, sir.
Why is that?
Because we have never had a sheriff here before, and they won't respect him, even if the white people do.
You already made a difference. Now you can save a life. $25.
Now, I would like to say that the day that I become sworn in as sheriff of Oak-Macon County, I will institute a colorblind type policy. What I mean by that is that everybody will be treated according to the law and no one will be mistreated, no one will receive brutality or unfair type treatments. I think that the time has come in these law enforcement agencies throughout the South where brutality must end. And I feel that this is a good time to start right in this county is to end police brutality.
Amerson's jurisdiction will be a huge one. 500 square miles of county. But it is by no means an average southern county. Some 84% of its people are Negro, the highest ratio of Negro to white population of any county in the United States. What do you think about having a Negro sheriff in this county?
I think it's a very good idea. I think it's time that we had one. I know Mr. Emerson. I think he'll enforce the law fairly.
What do you think about having a Negro sheriff here?
Well, I think it's okay. If the white dudes that's against it, they don't like it, just have to get to like it. That's all I have to say for it.
New Sheriff Lucius Amerson is 33 years old, born in Alabama, and for 12 years resident on and off of the county that elected him. Since his election, he prepares for office by studying state law books and going over a study sent him by the Harvard Law School covering subjects like confessions, search and seizure, arrests, and assault and battery. Do you think you'll have any trouble being the first Negro sheriff?
Well, there possibly will be some trouble as far as the normal troubles that you encounter in law enforcement, but I'm not looking forward to any extraordinary trouble.
Do you think you'll have any difficulty or any adverse reaction from the white population in the county?
Well, I don't think so. I think the people here in Macon County, they know that I ran for sheriff on my merit, and I conducted a type campaign. I didn't talk about, anybody in my campaign. I just ran my campaign solely on my qualifications and my ability to do the job. And as far as I can see, I can't see at the present time where there's going to be any adverse sentiment by the white community.
Being a Negro sheriff, do you think you'll have difficulty enforcing the law with white people?
This is something that I have talked about on several occasions with different people. As a matter of fact, I think that it will be much easier in working with the white people. I don't think that I will have any trouble at all.
Why is that? Why would it be easier for a Negro sheriff to enforce the law with whites?
Well, I think that throughout my campaign speeches, I have made the statement that if I am elected sheriff, I'm going to enforce the law impartially, and whoever commits a crime will be apprehended, regardless of whether it's white or Negro.
Jameson, what do you think might happen that first Saturday night when you have to confront a white man who's been drinking?
I don't think anything will happen other than he'll get arrested.
You don't think you might have more difficulty because of your color?
I don't think so.
Was race and color a big factor in the election?
Well, the fact that I never did get involved in race and color, I don't think it was. I don't think it was a factor at all. If you got any of the white voters on in the county, or do you have any indication of any white support? Oh, yes, I feel like I got a lot of white support.
Lucius Amerson takes his oath of office on January the 16th. His success or failure will depend in part on how he conducts himself, and in part on factors completely outside his personal control. White attitudes will obviously be vital. He must, on occasion, work with a white district attorney and white grand jurors, with white state highway patrolmen and with white policemen in the towns, and of course with a state government where George Wallace has made his reputation on white supremacy. Perhaps the initial testing time will come some Saturday night soon when that first Negro sheriff has to arrest a rowdy white man who's been drinking. Bob Evans, CBS News, Macon County, Alabama. I think Sheriff Amerson is doing as good a job as any other sheriff we've had that I can remember. No better, no worse, just another sheriff. He's a good, average, ordinary sheriff.
Do you have
Hold on.
$100? Because I'm looking for 2,000 believers who are willing to trade $100 for a house in.
Did you stab that man today? No, me and my wife were out. I ain't stabbed him. Talking about what? You ain't what? Where's that knife at? Where's the knife? She got it. She took it out of my hand. She got it. Where's your wife now? I went from home. I went here. I was walking up the street. So she signed a warrant on you and you stabbed her, and therefore I'm going to have to charge you with assault with intent to murder. That's what. Hey, Rick. A bit.
What do you see in the years ahead in your job?
Well, in the years ahead, I can see a lot of progress. I can see better law enforcement for Macon County, and I can see that many people throughout Macon County will become to respect the law much more highly. Because I think that people over this last year, I mean, they have gotten so that they can rely upon the law more than they have been able to do in the past. And I think that it's going to be much more progress, much more happiness for the people of Macon County. It has gotten to the stage now where I think that something should be done because people throughout the country, they don't have as much respect for the law as they used to, and I think that this kind of a thing make people have more disrespect for the law than they've ever had. And I think that this is one of the reasons why perhaps people get into a lot of rebellions and revolutions is because they don't like the way they have been treated by the law. And when the law mistreats them, then they really don't have any place to turn when they're in trouble.
If incidents like this continue to happen, would you hesitate to arrest officers?
I would not like to have to be involved in making any arrest of law enforcement officers in the future in Macon County. But I would venture to say that if the time should happen to arise where it becomes necessary, then I would not hesitate at any time to do what is required of me as the sheriff of Macon County.
The racism present a year ago has not disappeared, but people realize that black or white, Lucius Amerson is still the sheriff, and he has all the power that goes with the badge. So his first year must be considered a success, in that he survived and surprised a few people by doing a good job. Peter Burns, CBS News, Tuskegee, Alabama.
The reporter said he survived. That means there were probably several attempts on his life down there in Macon County. Now, the news back then is the same as the news now. They had to show him arresting the black man. You can tell the black man was scared of the sheriff. That man, that young black man, he definitely represented a standard of courage and fearlessness in the face of those white men. You heard the first white man, well, he'll be a poor sheriff. Why? What does he know about law enforcement? The N-words won't respect him, and if the N-words won't respect him, neither will we. But, the brother was unwavering as he answered the question, hey, what do you think is going to happen when you encounter a drunk white man? He was like, nothing except he's going to get arrested. He didn't feed into the fear because that's what that reporter knew. Hey, a drunk white man is still more respected than a sober black sheriff. But that brother evidently stood on business. They said once again he retaliated, and that is another part of history that they don't really tell you about. Black people who retaliated against white supremacy, even in the state of Alabama, where George Wallace was, champion white supremacy, like white supremacy now, white supremacy today, and white supremacy forever. It was that type of deal. But that brother stood up. And because, once you go and fight and you have to kill and survive a war, most of the black veterans came home and did not put up with that. That's why they had all the red summers and black Augusts and things like that, because people were fighting back. Not everybody was, kneeling, hold my mule, swing low, swing chariot, hit me over the head until you're tired. Nah, everybody wasn't like that. Some people got into the trenches and, they got to quote some of the young rappers, they got it back in blood. And a lot of times that's what it takes for a revolution to happen. As Malcolm said, there's been no revolution without bloodshed. And the brothers were in agreement and said, well, how could you go and shed blood in Vietnam and World War II and then come over here and you don't got no blood to shed when it gets turned back to your people? So shout out to Lucius Emerson. Nobody talks about him, but hopefully this video will bring some light to who he was and what he did, and even what is needed today to stand up against the racism, bigotry in law enforcement, the police brutality, as he mentioned, had to stop. All of those things. Hopefully, the black law enforcement will see this today and know that they too have the power to stand up against these ills of society that persist. Y'all let me know what y'all think about this video in the comments. Y'all see the number 919-587-7782. Thank y'all for liking, watching, sharing, and subscribing to the channel. And as always, I pray you have peace and blessings.
Don't cook garlic until you see this. Most people toss chopped garlic straight into the pan. Big mistake.
And as the scripture says, all things that are hidden shall be revealed, and those things that are in secret shall be exposed on the mountaintop.
Let's go, Rich. Let's go. We watching Telehouse Publishing, breaking news coverage, giving the truth before fake news, don't butter it. Before the jury decide and the judge discover it, you should tune into Telehouse Publishing, Telehouse Publishing, breaking news coverage. The propaganda grammar don't believe of it. Before the jury decide and the judge discover it, you should tune into Telehouse Publishing. We'll keep the people informed. The stories abroad from literary work, where the narrative's wrong. The research is always on point. The commentary is hard. As Rich Teller raises the bar. Following on, you're out the FBA, still FTV. Big up in FAC and all my black families. Three sides to all stories. Which one you gon' believe? We run down on the false prophets when they come with the seeds. 100% urban world news, current events. We don't like the lies. Media is biased. We got God besides. Ladies and just as power. If you don't know by now, look around. We the darkest hours. Cops who need the hammers because they don't understand. Stop and reach with our hands and kill us all like cancer. Don't speculate before the facts on the case. Tell our house, set them straight. My brother Richard Baskin. You got your Telehouse Publishing, breaking news coverage. Give you the truth for fake news, don't butter it. Before the jury decide and the judge discover it, you should tune into Telehouse Publishing, Telehouse Publishing, breaking news coverage. The propaganda grammar don't none of it. Before the jury decide and the judge discover it, you should tune in to Telehouse Publishing.
Negroes have listened to the trickery and the lies and the false promises of the white man now for too long. And they're fed up. They become disenchanted. They become disillusioned. They become dissatisfied. And all of this has built up frustrations in the black community that makes the black community throughout America today more explosive than all of the atomic bombs the Russians could ever invent.
Telehouse Publishing, Telehouse, 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 Telehouse Publishing.
All right, I like that brother, man. He's really on top of his game and what he's about doing and spreading the news and really telling the truth. Period. So here we have big Saudi unites Muslim world against U.S. MBS demands explanation from Trump on Greater Israel. So you got to realize white folks going to be white folks, man. They're going to continue to do what they want to do when they want to do it, how they want to do it. It doesn't matter what the history says. They're lying, scheming, conniving motherfuckers. These so-called fake-ass Jews of Israel of today are not real Jews. The Jews have always been black. Period. There's no need to be talking about it anymore. I'm not going to talk about it anymore because we already know what the deal is. And the idea is that this world is waking up to the reality of what that is and bring it all back home. The glory that they have experienced and given to them, all of that will turn into hate to the nth degree. I'll be right back.
Erupts in the Middle East after the shocking comment by the US ambassador to Israel, Mike Huckabee. In a recent interview with right-wing American commentator Tucker Carlson, Huckabee said Israel has biblical right to much of the region. The comment has drawn sharp reaction from Arab and Muslim nations, condemning US envoy's statement. Jordan, Saudi Arabia, Egypt, the Organization of Islamic Cooperation, and the League of Arab States, in separate statements, called Huckabee's thought extremist, provocative, and not in line with the US position. Saudi Arabia strongly condemned the remarks by the US envoy to Israel, calling them dangerous, illegal, and a threat to regional stability, while reaffirming support for a Palestinian state.
Las empresas extranjeras nos necesitan. Cada vez más empresas europeas y norteamericanas están...
Egypt denounced the envoy's comments as a violation of international law and reiterated that Israel has no sovereignty over occupied Palestinian territories. The Palestinian Authority said the remarks contradict US policy and President Trump's opposition to annexation of the West Bank. Kuwait rejected the statements as provocative and reaffirmed its support for Palestinian self-determination and a state based on 1967 borders. Oman condemned the comments as illegitimate and warned they undermine peace and threaten regional stability. The Arab League said the envoy's remarks violate diplomatic norms and risk inflaming tensions in the Middle East. The Organization of Islamic Cooperation condemned the comments as dangerous and warned they could encourage further escalation.
No.
Meanwhile, Israel and the United States have remained absolute mum on the comments by Mike Huckabee. The idea of Greater Israel refers to a religious or ideological concept that the land promised to the Jewish people in biblical texts extends beyond the present-day borders of Israel. Some interpretations of the biblical covenant with Abraham describe a territory stretching across parts of the modern Middle East. Under this interpretation, the historic or promised land is sometimes described as including areas that today lie within Jordan, Syria, Lebanon, Saudi Arabia, and Iraq, in addition to the West Bank and Gaza Strip. The concept is mainly rooted in religious and historical interpretations, rather than official government policy. Critics often use the term Greater Israel to describe perceived Israeli expansionism. A U.S. envoy is now not sticking to his diplomatical training or lessons, but a biblical promise, while making a statement that is sending shockwaves far beyond Washington. In a podcast interview recorded in Israel, U.S. Ambassador Mike Huckabee told commentator Tucker Carlson that Israel has a biblical right to expansive territory in the Middle East. It would be fine if they took it all, Huckabee said, referencing Old Testament scripture describing land promised to Abraham's descendants. Carlson cited a passage outlining territory stretching from the Wadi of Egypt to the great river, the Euphrates. This is an area that, in modern geography, would span much of the Levant and beyond. That could include parts of present-day Israel, Jordan, Syria, Lebanon, and potentially areas of Iraq and Saudi Arabia. Huckabee responded that while he was unsure of the precise extent, it would be a big piece of land. Carlson, who has increasingly questioned U.S. support for Israel, pressed Huckabee on whether such land claims imply a present-day right. I'm not sure it would go that far, but it would be a big piece of land. Israel is a land that God gave through Abraham to a people that he chose. It was a people, a place, and a purpose. It would be fine if they took it all. The remarks reflect interpretations often associated with segments of the U.S. Christian nationalist movement, framing Israel not just as a modern state, but as the fulfillment of a biblical covenant. The interview came during Carlson's visit to Israel, a trip that drew separate headlines after he claimed he faced bizarre treatment at Ben Gurion Airport. Israeli and U.S. officials said he underwent routine security screening. The Israeli Airports Authority stated that Carlson and his entourage were neither detained nor interrogated. Former Israeli Prime Minister Naftali Bennett sharply criticized Carlson's claims, calling him a phony in a post on X. Meanwhile, Huckabee defended Israeli airport security procedures, saying passport checks and questioning are routine for all travelers, debates within American conservative politics between traditional pro-Israel voices and a growing faction questioning the depth of U.S. backing. But beyond domestic politics, Huckabee's biblical framing of territorial claims is likely to reverberate across a region already fraught with tension.
All right, so you can see at the very end they had Netanyahu and his whore-ass wife. Both of these people are guilty of war crimes and crimes against humanity. The penalty for that, along with every person that served in the IDF, 18 and older, is death. God knows I want to see them not arrested but killed, because we already know they're guilty. There's no point in arresting them, having them a trial, giving them a trial and finding them guilty and then kill them. It's already said and done. Now here, they talking about how the littlest thing can be the biggest weapon against a $40 billion warship and a $4 million guided missile from the United States. I'll let it run.
How long it takes for Iran to completely blind the most sophisticated missile defense network ever built. The Defense Intelligence Agency delivered a classified threat briefing to the Senate Armed Services Committee that sent 3 senior lawmakers walking out of the room visibly shaken. The briefing, which leaked to Politico within 5 hours of its conclusion, contained an admission that fundamentally rewrites everything America believed about its ability to defend itself in the Middle East. Iran has developed and mass-produced an electronic warfare device, small enough to fit in a backpack, cheap enough to manufacture for less than the cost of a PlayStation, capable of simultaneously jamming the radar frequencies of Patriot, THAAD, and Aegis missile defense systems within a 40-kilometer radius. And I need you to hear this exactly as the classified assessment reportedly stated it. The IR-7 tactical jammer represents a paradigm shift in electronic warfare capability. Testing indicates that a coordinated deployment of 200 or fewer units can create complete radar denial across the entire CENTCOM theater of operations. System cost per unit is estimated at $350 to $450. No effective countermeasure currently exists in deployed inventory. No effective countermeasure currently exists. That sentence, buried in a classified document that was never supposed to see daylight, represents the most significant admission of American military vulnerability since the Pentagon acknowledged it couldn't stop hypersonic missiles in 2023. The device that does this costs less than a decent pair of sneakers. Iran has manufactured an estimated 15,000 of them. And in the time it took you to read this paragraph, 60 seconds, a single operator with a single device could render America's entire regional missile defense architecture completely blind. Defense stocks didn't just fall, they collapsed. Raytheon, the primary manufacturer of Patriot missile systems, dropped 18% before trading was halted for volatility. Lockheed Martin fell 14%. Northrop Grumman crashed 16%. The entire American defense industrial base, the companies that have collected trillions of dollars promising to protect American forces, shed $187 billion in market capitalization in a single morning. General Dynamics surged 9%. Why? Because General Dynamics manufactures tanks and artillery. Weapons that don't depend on radar systems that Iran just proved it can shut off like a light switch. The smart money calculated the implications instantly. It calculated that the $47 billion America has spent on missile defense systems in the Middle East can be neutralized by $6 million worth of devices that fit in backpacks. But here's the part that most people are missing. Here is the thing that transforms this from an embarrassing intelligence assessment into an existential crisis for American military operations worldwide. Iran didn't develop this technology alone, and they're not keeping it to themselves. The leaked DIA briefing explicitly states that the IR-7 jammer's core technology originated from Chinese electronic warfare research conducted at the People's Liberation Army, whose Unit 61398 facility in Shanghai. The technology was transferred to Iran through the same intelligence sharing agreement that provided Iran with targeting data on American bases last month. But here's what makes this worse than a simple technology transfer. Iran has begun exporting the IR-7 to Hezbollah, to Houthi forces in Yemen, to Shia militias in Iraq and Syria. The briefing estimates that over 3,000 units have already been distributed to proxy forces throughout the Middle East, forces that operate within range of every American military installation in the region. Read that one more time. The device that blinds American missile defense is not sitting in warehouses in Tehran waiting to be deployed in some future war. It's already in the hands of militias positioned within striking distance of Al Udeid, of Camp Rifjan, the 5th Fleet headquarters in Bahrain, The threat isn't coming. The threat is already in position. Iran's response to the leak came within hours. General Amir Ali Hajizadeh, commander of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps Aerospace Force, appeared on Iranian state television and delivered a statement that sent oil futures surging past $127 a barrel before he finished speaking. He said, and I quote, "The Americans have spent decades building walls of electronics around their forces. We have spent years developing the tools to make those walls transparent. When the moment comes, their radars will show nothing. Their missiles will have no targets. Their billion-dollar systems will be expensive blindfolds. And our weapons will find their targets unimpeded. Their radars will show nothing. Their missiles will have no targets. Expensive blindfolds. That is not propaganda. That is a military commander accurately describing what Iran's $400 device does to America's most sophisticated defensive systems. Stay with me, because understanding how this device works and why there's no quick fix reveals the fundamental flaw in how America has approached electronic warfare for 3 decades. Let me explain the physics of how a $400 device defeats a $1 billion radar system.
Hold on.
Modern missile defense radars operate by transmitting electromagnetic pulses and analyzing the returns to detect incoming threats. The Patriot's AN-MPQ-65 radar transmits in the C-band frequency range between 4 and 8 gigahertz. THAAD's AN-TPY-2 radar operates in the X-band between 8 and 12 gigahertz. The Aegis Systems SPY-1 radar operates in the S-band between 2 and 4 gigahertz. These frequency bands were chosen decades ago because they offered optimal performance for tracking ballistic missiles. The radar systems were designed assuming that jamming in these frequencies would require large, expensive, power-hungry equipment that could be easily detected and destroyed. That assumption is now obsolete. The IR-7 jammer uses a technique called digital radio frequency memory, or DRFM. The device receives incoming radar signals, records them, modifies them, and retransmits them back toward the radar with precisely calculated timing and power levels. The radar cannot distinguish between real returns from actual targets and false returns generated by the jammer. The result is a radar screen filled with hundreds of false targets. Or worse, a radar screen showing nothing at all while actual missiles fly through undetected. And here is why the $400 price tag is possible. The components required for DRFM jamming, high-speed analog to digital converters, digital signal processors, programmable radio frequency synthesizers, all of these were classified military technologies 20 years ago. Today, they are commercial components manufactured in the millions for 5G cellular networks, software-defined radios, and consumer electronics. The Iranian device uses a Xilinx field-programmable gate array that costs $47 on the open market. It uses analog to digital converters manufactured by Texas Instruments for automotive radar systems. It uses a power amplifier designed for commercial satellite communications. Iran assembled commercial components into a weapon that defeats military systems costing 1 million times more. And because the components are commercial, there is no export control, no sanctions regime, no technology denial program that can prevent their proliferation. Anyone with $400 and the technical knowledge to assemble the device can blind American radar systems. And Iran is providing both the devices and the knowledge to anyone aligned against American interests. Now look at what this means for American forces in the Middle East. The United States has approximately 45,000 military personnel stationed within range of Iranian missiles and proxy forces across Qatar, Bahrain, Kuwait, the UAE, Saudi Arabia, and Iraq. Those personnel are protected by an integrated air and missile defense network that includes 14 Patriot batteries, 2 THAAD batteries, and multiple Aegis-equipped destroyers. That network costs approximately $47 billion, and it requires thousands of trained operators. It consumes enormous quantities of fuel, spare parts, and maintenance resources. It represents decades of engineering development and operational refinement. Iran can neutralize that entire network with 200 backpack-sized devices costing a combined $80,000. The cost ratio is not 1 to 1,000. It is not 1 to 10,000. It is 1 to 587,500. For every dollar Iran spends on jammers, America must spend more than $500,000 on defensive systems that those jammers render useless. Here's what happens when the jammers activate and the missiles follow. Iran possesses approximately 3,000 ballistic missiles capable of reaching American bases in the Gulf. In a coordinated attack scenario, Iran activates jammers positioned by proxy forces near American installations. 60 seconds later, Patriot radars begin displaying false targets or losing track entirely. THAAD systems suffer the same fate. Aegis destroyers offshore find their SPY-1 radars overwhelmed with phantom contacts. Then the missiles launch, hundreds of them, flying toward bases whose defensive systems cannot track them, cannot engage them, cannot stop them. Pentagon were games conducted in 2024. Codenamed Desert Shield 2 simulated this exact scenario. The results were classified at the highest level. But sources who viewed the after-action report told Defense News that simulated American casualties exceeded 8,000 in the first 4 hours. 8,000 Americans killed or wounded before a single defensive missile successfully engaged an actual threat. And the war
Running breaks your joints. Tai Chi builds them back. After 50,
and the war game assumed Iran had only 500 jammers. The DIA now believes they have 15,000. Here's the question that cuts through every Pentagon briefing, every contractor press release, every reassurance about American technological superiority. The one question that determines everything else: can this be countered? Let me give you the honest answer. The answer that defense engineers have been screaming about for years, while procurement officials kept buying radar systems designed for a threat environment that no longer exists: yes, it can be countered, but not with anything currently deployed, and not quickly. The solution is called cognitive electronic warfare. Radar systems that use artificial intelligence to distinguish between real targets and jamming artifacts in real time. Systems that constantly shift frequencies, waveforms, and processing algorithms faster than jammers can adapt. The problem is that developing and deploying these systems requires replacing the fundamental architecture of every missile defense radar in the American inventory. The Patriot system entered service in 1984. The SPY-1 radar entered service in 1983. These systems have been upgraded repeatedly, but their core, signal processing, is based on technology designed when the Soviet Union still existed. The Pentagon has programs developing cognitive electronic warfare capabilities. They are scheduled to deliver initial operational capability in 2031 at the earliest, 5 years from now. And that timeline assumes no budget cuts, no development delays, no testing failures. Iran has 15,000 jammers today. Hezbollah has them today. Houthi forces have them today. The threat exists now. The solution exists in PowerPoint presentations about programs that won't deliver for half a decade. And here is what this means for every American watching this video. If war erupts with Iran in the coming weeks or months, American forces will fight with radar systems that Iran can blind at will. Patriot batteries that have protected American installations for 40 years will become billion-dollar paperweights. THAAD systems that were supposed to be the ultimate defense against ballistic missiles will track nothing but ghosts and phantoms. The missiles that get through, and in this scenario many will get through, will strike bases, ships, and installations filled with American service members who trusted that the defensive systems protecting them actually worked. $400 to build, $47 billion to defeat, 60 seconds to activate, 5 years to counter, 15,000 devices distributed, 0 effective defenses deployed. Those numbers define America's biggest electronic warfare vulnerability. Those numbers explain why 3 senators walked out of a classified briefing looking like they had seen something they wished they could unsee. And those numbers represent a reality that no press conference, no contractor promise, no Pentagon reassurance can change. Iran found the frequency. Iran built the device. Iran distributed it to forces positioned within range of every American base in the Middle East. The walls of electronics that America built around its forces are no longer walls. They are, as Iran's general accurately stated, expensive blindfolds. And the missiles that will one day test whether those blindfolds can be removed in time are already fueled, already targeted, already waiting for the order to launch. $400. 60 seconds, 0 defense. That is the equation. That is the vulnerability. That is the crisis that no one in Washington wants to explain to the American people. And the clock is ticking on how long America can pretend this problem does not exist, while adversaries position devices that will determine whether American soldiers live or die in the next war. The jammer costs less than a monthly car payment. The lives it endangers are priceless. And the time to fix this problem ran out years ago.
All right, so we're rounding it down, and it's just a matter of time. I really want to have people who are watching it, and I really thank you for coming, and those who will be seeing it, that America is done. 80% of its war efforts and machinery and things that they need come from Africa. They're not getting it anymore. 75% of its missiles is not there anymore. Trump is about to resign. This shit about pedophilia and eating human meat. They want us to start doing that shit in America and around the world, and especially Europe. Now, 90% of the meat that is in Europe is 3D printed. Are you seeing this where this is going? White folk, this white boy and white girl have lost their motherfucking mind. Really has lost their fucking mind. Ain't no motherfucking way I'm gonna eat some white people, black people, meat. What's that boy name who was in the Titanic? The actor. He getting off on that shit. Leo DiCaprio eating human meat. It's time to kill these motherfuckers. That's what I'm trying to tell you. And it's going to come out worse and worse and worse and worse. They got one guy on here talking about how Hillary Clinton took the face of a living child off, the skin off of her face and put it on hers and then killed her. I'm telling you, this motherfucking shit gotta stop. We gotta get up, wake up, stand up, and start killing. White on white crime narrative America doesn't want to re-examine. I'll be right the fuck back.
The crime narrative America doesn't want to re-examine. If Black Americans were committing mass shootings at the rate white Americans are, this country would have rewritten the Constitution by now. That is not an exaggeration. That is a pattern so obvious that the refusal to acknowledge it is itself a political decision. And it is time we talked about exactly why certain crimes produce laws and certain crimes produce silence. Let me set the table with facts because this conversation makes people uncomfortable, and discomfort is usually where the truth lives. The overwhelming majority of mass shootings in this country, the school massacres, the grocery store slaughters, the movie theater executions, the church bloodbaths, are committed by white men. That is not opinion. That is data. And yet, after every single one of these events, the national conversation follows an identical script. We hear about mental health. We hear about loneliness. We hear about how nobody saw the signs. We hear about a troubled individual who fell through the cracks. What we never hear is a demand for systemic accountability directed at the community producing these killers at an industrial rate. Look at what just happened in Rhode Island, a shooting that should have dominated every news cycle, that should have had lawmakers on every microphone demanding immediate legislative action. Instead, what did we get? We got measured reporting. We got carefully worded statements. We got the same recycled language designed to frame the violence as an isolated incident rather than a symptom of a deeper cultural crisis. Now imagine for 1 second that the shooter was Black. Close your eyes and genuinely picture that scenario. You already know what would happen because you have watched it happen your entire life. Every Black organization in the country would be pressured to make a statement. Every Black public figure would be asked to condemn the act as though they were personally responsible. New legislation would be drafted before the victims were buried. Surveillance would increase in Black neighborhoods that had nothing to do with the crime. Stop and frisk would make a comeback before the end of the fiscal quarter. That is not speculation. That is the American playbook, and it has been running without interruption for centuries. When Black people are associated with crime, the response is systemic, sweeping, and immediate. New laws, new task forces, new funding for policing, new restrictions on civil liberties, all passed with bipartisan urgency. But when white Americans commit acts of mass violence, acts that are by every statistical measure more lethal and more frequent than anything attributed to Black communities, the response is therapeutic. It is understanding. It is nuanced. Suddenly the conversation is about root causes instead of punishment. Suddenly, we need to study the issue further instead of acting on it. School shootings have become normalized in this country, and I need you to sit with how insane that sentence is. Normalized. Children are being massacred in classrooms, and this nation has collectively decided that this is an acceptable cost of doing business. And I am telling you directly that the normalization is only possible because of who is committing these acts. If black teenagers were walking into suburban schools and opening fire, there would be metal detectors in every school in America within 6 months. There would be National Guard deployments. There would be congressional hearings that lasted years. There would be executive orders stacked so high you could not see over them. The entire apparatus of the state would mobilize with a speed and ferocity that would make your head spin. But because the profile of the typical school shooter does not fit the narrative that America has built its criminal justice system around, we get thoughts and prayers and absolutely nothing else. This is where the psychology of racial framing reveals itself most clearly. America does not have a crime problem. America has a crime narrative problem. The story this country tells itself about who is dangerous and who is not determines which violence gets treated as a crisis and which violence gets treated as a tragedy. When Black Americans are involved, it is a crisis that demands control. When white Americans are involved, it is a tragedy that demands compassion. The distinction is not based on the severity of the crime. It is based entirely on the race of the person committing it. Think about the war on drugs, exposed as a racially targeted campaign that was never about public safety. Think about the crime bills of the 90s, exposed as legislation designed to incarcerate Black communities under the illusion of protecting them. Think about three strikes laws, mandatory minimums, gang enhancement charges. All of these were policy responses to crime narratives that centered Black faces. Now think about what policy responses have emerged from decades of mass shootings committed by white Americans. The answer is functionally nothing. No equivalent legislation, no sweeping crackdowns, no cultural indictment, nothing that even approaches the legislative ferocity that was directed at Black communities for comparatively lesser offenses. Everything in this country operates on a racial axis, and crime is no exception. The question of who gets policed, who gets prosecuted, who gets profiled, and who gets the benefit of psychological context is always, without exception, determined by race. The data does not lie, but the narrative does. And the narrative has been lying for so long that most people accept it as baseline reality. They genuinely believe that Black communities are more dangerous because every system of information they interact with has been telling them that story since birth. Meanwhile, the actual statistics tell a completely different story that nobody in power has any incentive to amplify. Here is what needs to happen, and I am not going to sugarcoat it. This country needs to apply the same legislative urgency to mass shootings that it applied to crack cocaine. It needs to study the cultural conditions producing mass shooters with the same intensity it studied Black neighborhoods. It needs to fund prevention with the same enthusiasm it funded incarceration. It needs to look at the communities producing the highest volume of mass casualty events and ask the same uncomfortable questions it has been asking Black communities for 400 years. But that will not happen as long as the crime narrative stays intact, because the narrative is not designed to reduce crime. It is designed to control who gets punished for it. And the people writing that narrative have no intention of turning that lens on themselves.
Boom. Now, look, I'm just going to be fucking honest. I would prefer that white people continue to lie to themselves. We already know what the truth is. I would prefer that you don't deal with the shit. I would prefer that you don't deal with the drug addiction. I would prefer that you don't deal with the killing of your baby more from abortion than Black women. I would prefer that you don't, get upset and riled up and want to do something about gang violence. I would prefer that you don't do anything about pedophilia and inbreeding, having babies, father with daughter, mother with son. I would prefer that you don't do anything. Just keep living in that bubble of believing that you are the perfect example, the shining light upon the hill that people around the globe need to follow. That's what I want you to do. That's what I want you to do. I don't want you to be upset and getting all. I want you to still think that the worst fucking criminals are niggas. I want you to think, even though it's you guys, I want you to think that. I want you to continue on believing that you created everything and niggas ain't never did anything. I want you to think that. I want you to think that you civilized black people. Black people did not civilize you 3 times. I want you to think that. Because in the end, you're not going to be able to do anything else than that. Because you are truly blind, deaf, and dumb to the realities of what your ancestors taught you. You see, your ancestors signed, sealed, and delivered your death certificate 200 years ago. And you don't even know it. You don't even see your own downfall coming. It's here, not coming. It's here. It is active, and it is no more. You see, evil will always destroy itself in the end in those who partake in it. Always, ALWAYS, and in always, ALLWAYS. It never fails. And white people, as we know you people today, we would call you before Yurugus or Tamahus. Because we had no respect. My ancestors had no respect for you people. Then and now. And I have no respect for you people. Then and now. There's no good white people. Because if they were, they would have been killing all the bad ones. So fuck all white folks and that bullshit. You're not getting it past me, not one iota. Because I give no fucks. It's bad enough that we have to deal with internal dissension and people who actually want to believe that they white and want to get close to white. We got enough of that. But lo and behold, I say unto your white ass, there's no more. There's no more. You guys have played the Wizard of Oz game for I don't know how long, 150, 200 years. It's over. That brother down in Macon County, Alabama, killing the Ku Klux Klan, he died a long time ago. Great brother. Great brother. See, because y'all talk all this bullshit about nigga until your motherfucking teeth turn white as snow. But you know you weak than a motherfucker. You only pick on women and children. But as soon as you come up upon black men with the guns, you run. That has always been the case. And so when we come up on this one, France is back in the Sahel. The secret Algeria deal no one saw coming. You see, the Algerians were under the thumb of France. But like always, white folk gonna stick together. And now they're allowing France to occupy that area that is connected to Niger and Mali. It doesn't matter because they're gonna lose anyway. They've already lost. I'll be right back.
Paper, it looked routine. Counterterrorism cooperation, intelligence sharing, judicial coordination, police collaboration, diplomatic language, calm, technical. But there was one detail that changed everything. Algeria shares 1,400 kilometers of border with Mali and Niger, 2 countries that just kicked France out, 2 countries now leaning toward Russia. So when France's interior minister suddenly flies to Algiers, smiles for cameras, and announces restored security relations, you have to pause, because this comes only weeks after France lost access to the entire Sahel. Was this really about Algeria, or was it about something else? You see, France didn't exit the Sahel quietly. They were pushed out, over 5,000 French troops sent home, military bases dismantled, uranium mines nationalized, decades of influence erased. And now, suddenly, a new security pact on the edge of the same region? The timing isn't random. So the real question isn't what France signed. The real question is why. What is actually happening behind these diplomatic smiles? And what does this mean for Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger? Let's break it down.
I can turn your wildest ideas into a song. Just describe it in a few words, choose a style, and let
Hold on.
Mareka the Fifth Eight handle the rest. With one click.
Now let's go back. Just a few months earlier, France and Algeria were not shaking hands. They were clashing, and not quietly. This wasn't a minor diplomatic disagreement. It was described as the most serious crisis between the two countries since Algeria gained independence in 1962. That's how deep it was. The spark came in July 2024. France made a move, a calculated one. Paris announced it supported Morocco's sovereignty claim over Western Sahara. On paper, it sounded like a foreign policy statement. In reality, it detonated a political bomb, because Algeria does not support Morocco's claim. Algeria backs the Polisario Front, the movement fighting for Western Sahara's independence. The reaction from Algiers was immediate, cold, sharp. They recalled their ambassador from Paris, indefinitely, not for consultations, not temporarily, indefinitely. That word matters. The Algerian government didn't hide its anger. They called France's decision the result of dubious political calculation. They called it morally questionable. And then came the accusation that really stung. They said France was acting like a colonial power for a country whose independence was won through a brutal war against France. That accusation carries weight. So just months ago, these two nations were at their lowest point in decades. And now, they're signing security deals. So what changed? Then the tension escalated. December 2024, Algeria summoned the French ambassador, not for tea, for accusations, serious ones. They claimed French intelligence, specifically the DGSE, was carrying out provocations and hostile acts, espionage, interference, pressure tactics. The relationship wasn't just strained, it was unraveling, fast. And then came January 2025, another spark. France's interior minister, Bruno Retailleau, attempted to deport an Algerian influencer. The accusation? Violent threats made on TikTok. Paris wanted him out. Algeria refused to take him back. They called the deportation illegal, invalid, unacceptable. French right-wing media exploded. Talk shows raged. Headlines screamed about sovereignty and national pride. Diplomacy turned into political theater. But it didn't stop there. February 2025. Things moved from words to action. Algeria expelled 12 French diplomatic staff. The reason? France had arrested an Algerian consular official on kidnapping charges. Algiers saw it as an insult. Paris saw it as law enforcement. Within days, France retaliated. 12 Algerian officials expelled, ambassador recalled. Just like that. This wasn't a disagreement anymore. It was tit-for-tat escalation, a diplomatic spiral. So when you see these two countries suddenly signing security cooperation agreements, you have to understand something. They weren't friends, they were on the brink, which makes the sudden reset even more interesting, because nations don't reverse course this quickly unless something bigger is at stake. February 2025. Diplomats expelled. Ambassadors recalled. Relations at their lowest point in 63 years. That's where we were. Now fast forward. February 2026. France's interior minister lands in Algiers. Cameras flash. Hands are shaken. A high-level security cooperation mechanism is signed. Counterterrorism intelligence. Judicial coordination. Police cooperation. Wait. 12 months ago, they were expelling each other's diplomats. Now they're sharing intelligence? From hostile acts to strategic cooperation in 1 year? That's not a normal reset. That feels urgent. Because between February 2025 and February 2026, everything changed. France lost the Sahel completely. Mali, Burkina Faso, Niger, one after the other. Military agreements terminated. Bases closed. Troops sent home. Influence erased. But to understand why Algeria suddenly matters again, we need to go back further. President Emmanuel Macron made a statement. He said the Algerian nation did not exist before French colonization. In Algeria, that wasn't just controversial, it was explosive. Algiers recalled its ambassador, and then they did something strategic. They banned French military planes from using Algerian airspace. Now that might sound technical, but it wasn't, because French forces operating in Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger depended on flying through Algerian skies, supply routes, reconnaissance, logistics. Without that airspace, operations became harder, more expensive, more complicated. Algeria had leverage, and they knew it. So now, with France locked out of the Sahel, and Algeria sitting on the northern gateway to Mali and Niger, that sudden security deal starts to look very different. This isn't just diplomacy, this is positioning. The question is, who needs who more right now? But by 2024, the airspace drama didn't even matter anymore, because France was gone, Mali gone, Burkina Faso gone, Niger gone. No troops, no bases, no operations. There was nowhere left to fly. The overflight ban became irrelevant, and that changed everything. Because once France lost its physical presence in the Sahel, the strategy had to change. France no longer needed Algeria for airspace. France needed something more valuable.
Hey you, it's
Hold
me
on.
again. Are you still wondering how much it will cost you to start up a company in the UAE? Well,
Access. Look at the map. Algeria shares 1,400 kilometers of border with Mali and nearly 1,000 kilometers with Niger. That's not a border, that's a corridor, a northern gateway into the Sahel, the same Sahel France just lost. If Paris cannot operate inside Mali or Niger directly, then the only way to watch, monitor, or influence what happens there is from the outside. And Algeria is the outside. But this isn't one-sided. Algeria has its own fears. Instability doesn't stop at borders. The alliance of Sahel states, Mali, Burkina Faso, Niger, now backed by Russia, controls territory just south of Algeria. Jihadist groups move through desert borderlands. Smuggling routes expand. Armed networks adapt. And Algeria's military, while large, is aging. It is not built for a massive insurgency spilling north. So now both countries face the same reality. France lost influence. Algeria faces rising instability. Different problems, same geography. And when geography traps two rivals in the same strategic corner, old grudges suddenly become negotiable. So this deal, it's not about friendship, it's about survival on both sides. So France went to Algiers, not with lectures, not with pressure, but with a proposal, because this time the balance had shifted. France had just lost strategic ground in the Sahel. Algeria borders that ground. Geography doesn't lie. On February 18th, the agreement was signed. Counterterrorism cooperation, intelligence sharing, judicial coordination, police collaboration, all presented as balanced, mutual, between equals. But what does it actually mean? Look closer. France now gains indirect visibility into Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger. They gain access to Algerian security assessments of the alliance of Sahel states. They gain insight into Russian military movements south of the border. They gain judicial channels that could help track financial flows, arms transfers, fighters moving between territories. In other words, France regains eyes. Maybe not boots on the ground, but eyes in the region. And what does Algeria get? French counterterrorism expertise, intelligence on jihadist networks operating across the Sahel, police training, technology, coordination. But there's something even more important, recognition. Because when France signs a high-level security agreement with Algeria, after years of tension, after colonial accusations, after diplomatic expulsions, it sends a message. Algeria is not a subordinate. It is a regional power, one that Paris now needs to treat as an equal partner. So this deal isn't charity, it's leverage. For both sides, France regains strategic awareness. Algeria gains strategic status. But here's the bigger question. If France is rebuilding influence from the north, what does that mean for the alliance of Sahel states? And how will Russia respond? But here's where it gets interesting. The timing. France didn't sign this deal when relations were warm. They didn't sign it when ambassadors were smiling. They signed it at the lowest point, after expulsions, after accusations, after public humiliation in the Sahel. That's not normal diplomacy. That's strategy. Because at that moment, Algeria had leverage, maximum leverage. And France, France had just been pushed out of a region it had shaped for 60 years. Mali, Burkina Faso, Niger, gone. Influence dismantled. Bases closed. Flags lowered. So this wasn't reconciliation. This was necessity. The joint statement talks about mutual respect. It talks about sovereign equality, diplomatic language. But read between the lines. Algeria demanded to be treated as a partner, not a former colony, not a subordinate. And France agreed, because it had to. Without Algeria, France has zero physical access to the Sahel, zero direct leverage, zero regional foothold. Geography made the decision, so Paris swallowed its pride, accepted the tone, accepted the framing, signed a deal that would have been politically impossible just months earlier, from expelling diplomats to exchanging intelligence in 1 year. That doesn't happen because feelings changed. It happens because power shifted. And now let's say the quiet part out loud. France didn't sign this deal out of generosity. They didn't suddenly wake up concerned about Algerian counterterrorism needs. They signed it because Algeria sits on the northern gate of Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger, and gates are valuable. This agreement gives France visibility, signals, information, movement tracking. It gives them a way to monitor what's happening inside the alliance of Sahel states without being incited. No boots, but eyes. And in modern geopolitics, sometimes eyes are enough.
Watch what happens
Hold
when
on.
you pair blueberries with this. Most people think blueberries help your brain because of antioxidants.
Now pause. Let's talk about what intelligence sharing really means. It sounds harmless, technical, bureaucratic, but in border regions, it's power. Algeria monitors its southern frontier closely. 1,400 kilometers with Mali, nearly 1,000 kilometers with Niger. That's vast desert territory, but it's not empty. Convoys move there. Armed groups operate there. Smuggling routes shift there. Military cargo lands nearby. Algerian security forces track patterns. They know which factions operate in which zones. They know when unusual movements happen. They know when aircraft land in southern areas. That information is strategic gold. And under the February 18th agreement, that information flows to France, not speculation. History shows how critical Algeria already was to French operations. Before the expulsions, France ran Operation Barkhane. Its headquarters was in N'Djamena, Chad. But to reach Mali efficiently, French aircraft relied on Algerian overflight permissions. Air corridors matter. Logistics matter. When Algeria restricted those permissions in 2021, French operations became slower, more complex, more expensive. Geography tightened the space. That moment revealed something important. Algeria was never peripheral. It was central. Now imagine the situation today. France no longer has troops in Mali, Burkina Faso, or Niger. No bases, no official presence. But through intelligence cooperation with Algeria, France regained something it lost: visibility, early warning, regional awareness. They may not control territory anymore, but they can still watch it. And in geopolitics, watching is the first step toward influencing. The real question is, how long before the alliance of Sahel states notices? Now imagine Algeria providing France with something more valuable than overflight rights: ground level intelligence from Algerian security forces who actually patrol the borders. The agreement covers judicial cooperation. That means if France wants to track French origin weapons that ended up in Malian hands, they can request Algerian assistance. If they want to investigate how money flows from French companies to armed groups, Algeria can share banking information. It covers police cooperation. That means French and Algerian police forces coordinate, and Algerian police operate in border regions where the AES is active. They see things French police never could. And most importantly, it covers counterterrorism. France can claim they're helping Algeria fight terrorism spillover from Mali, but the real value? Every piece of intelligence Algeria gathers on jihadist movements in Mali also reveals information about Russian military contractors operating alongside Malian forces. Because here's the reality: jihadist groups, the alliance of Sahel states, and Russian forces all operate in overlapping territories. You can't track JNIM or ISGS without also tracking the government forces and foreign militaries fighting them. So when Algeria shares counterterrorism intelligence with France, they're also sharing intelligence on Russian deployments, Chinese mining convoys, and Turkish drone operations. Everything France lost visual access to when they were expelled. The fact is that France is using Algeria as a listening post. But there's another dimension. France isn't just gathering intelligence. They're also trying to shape Algeria's relationship with the Alliance of Sahel States. In April 2024, Mali accused Algeria of being behind rebel attacks. The three AES countries temporarily froze diplomatic ties with Algeria. That tension benefits France. Why? Because the more hostile Algeria becomes toward Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger, the more willing Algeria is to share intelligence with France. France doesn't need Algeria to invade Mali. They just need Algeria to stay suspicious of Mali, monitor them closely, and share what they see. And this agreement incentivizes exactly that. By formalizing intelligence sharing, France makes Algeria's security apparatus dependent on French analytical capabilities. Algeria shares raw intelligence. France provides analysis, satellite imagery, and signals intelligence that Algeria can't generate alone. That creates a relationship where Algeria needs France, just as France needs Algeria. And the more that relationship deepens, the less likely Algeria is to cooperate with the Alliance of Sahel States. This is strategic encirclement without military deployment. You see, France can't send troops back into Mali, but they can position intelligence assets around Mali's borders. Algeria to the north, Nigeria to the south, where US and French cooperation is growing. Chad to the east, which still maintains some French ties despite recent tensions. The Sahel becomes a surveillance box. France can't control what happens inside, but they can watch. And intelligence is the first step toward influence, because France's long-term goal isn't just monitoring, it's waiting for the alliance of Sahel states to fail, waiting for Russian support to falter, and waiting for opportunities to influence coups from within so they can return. That's what this Algeria deal provides. Now, some people may say so Algeria is just a pawn in the hands of France. Well, that's what most analyses miss. Algeria isn't a victim in this deal. They're actually a player, and they're playing France and Russia against each other brilliantly. You see,
Tu dirección de residencia te está costando caro. Te están pagando 5 veces menos que lo que paga.
Algeria has deep military ties with Russia. Between 2018 and 2022, Russia provided 73% of Algeria's military equipment. Algeria operates Russian S-400 air defense systems. They just took delivery of Su-57 stealth fighters, becoming Russia's first foreign customer for that aircraft. Russian instructors train Algerian forces, and Russian technicians maintain Algerian weapon systems. But Algeria is furious with Russia, and the France deal is partially revenge. First reason, the Sahel. Algeria views Russian expansion into Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger as a direct threat. The 2013 terrorist attack on Algeria's In Amenas gas facility, where 40 workers were killed, remains a defining trauma for the Algerian military. Algeria shares 1,400 kilometers of border with Mali and 956 kilometers with Niger. This means instability there is Algeria's internal security crisis. And Russia is helping stabilize the Sahel. In January 2026, a Turkish-made Malian drone allegedly entered Algerian airspace and was shot down. And guess what? Algeria blamed Russian backing of Mali's military junta for emboldening such actions. Algerian President Tebboune told French newspaper Le Figaro in 2022 that the money Wagner's presence cost would be better spent on development in the Sahel. That was a direct criticism of Russia, which is rare for Algeria's normally cautious diplomacy. Second reason, weapons delays. Russia's war in Ukraine has disrupted defense supplies to Algeria. Deliveries are slow, maintenance is delayed, and updates aren't happening on schedule. Algeria depends on Russian systems, but Russia is prioritizing its own military needs over export contracts. Third reason, Algeria wasn't invited to BRICS. In August 2023, at the 15th BRICS Summit in South Africa, Algeria applied for membership. China, Russia, and South Africa all supported Algeria's candidacy, but Algeria wasn't selected. 6 countries were chosen: Argentina, Egypt, Ethiopia, Iran, Saudi Arabia, and the UAE. Algeria was left out. That was a humiliation. Algeria sees itself as a major regional power, and Russia, despite claiming to support Algeria, didn't deliver. So when France came knocking with a security cooperation proposal, Algeria saw an opportunity. Not to abandon Russia, of course. Algeria isn't stupid. They know French intentions, but to leverage France against Russia.
Wow, a lot to consider. And that last bit of information says it all. There's nothing worse than being treated like an orphan. I get it. And Algeria truly wanted to be a part of BRICS, which means wanted to be a part of the Sahel states, which means they wanted to be a part of the United States of Africa, which means they wanted to be a part of the global South. That didn't happen. So here we are, and what is going to happen, and what I'm saying right now is that they're going to be included, but they're going to have to give up being the eyes for France. It's like what's the best? It's like damn, what would be the big one? It'd be like uh, you know, the pretty girl that wasn't chosen, so to speak, by the handsome guy, and he chose a plain-looking girl. You know what I mean? But Algeria is a powerful country, positioned perfectly in the northern hemisphere, in the northern section of the continent of Africa. So when all is said and done, I think that come 26th of, and we got 2 more days, really one more day, that Traore and the United States of Africa will include Algeria to calm them down. To say, hey, you are included. We want you to be a part of the United States of Africa, but you're going to have to give up being the eyes, ears, and nose of France. And that's a lot to be considered because you got a standing army of well over 25 million people on the continent with all of the latest technological advancement in military warfare. America doesn't have it anymore. Europe doesn't have it anymore. They're bankrupt. They have zero gold, from what I'm understanding, in Fort Knox. And not paying attention to its power base that makes it for what it is, you get a lack of care that comes with that. When I say a lack of care, there's a certain amount of duty that you have to pay for the inside technological advances that are coming from one sector, and that is the black sector. I'll be right back.
Join us on Patreon and become part of our journey to uncover history's untold stories. Your support helps us create in-depth content, bring hidden narratives to life, and keep history alive for everyone.
History has a strange habit of polishing some names until they shine like brass on a parade uniform, while others, just as brilliant, just as transformative, are left to rust in the margins. We know the titans of the automobile age. We know the industrialists who built factories and stamped their names onto empires. But what about the quiet inventors who stood in workshops, sleeves rolled, hands blackened with oil and graphite, thinking not about glory but about improvement? What about the men whose ideas slipped into the bloodstream of modern life, fueling engines, lighting roads, saving drivers from mechanical disaster, yet whose own names were gradually erased. Among those forgotten innovators stands Richard Bowie Spikes, a mechanical mind whose ingenuity reshaped automotive technology in the early 20th century. His story is not only about invention, but about resilience, racial barriers, and the complicated, often painful reality of patent ownership in an era when opportunity was sharply divided by color. Spikes improved automobiles at a time when the machine was redefining the world. Yet despite his patents and technical achievements, much of the recognition and much of the profit passed into other hands. Richard Bowie Spikes was born in 1878 in Dallas County, Texas, during the turbulent years that followed Reconstruction. The United States was redefining itself, but the freedoms promised to formerly enslaved families were narrowing under the weight of segregation laws and racial violence. For a black child born in Texas in the late 19th century, opportunity was neither abundant nor guaranteed. Yet the Spikes' family valued education and ambition. Richard's early life was shaped by mobility. His family relocated westward, eventually settling in California, a state that offered comparatively broader possibilities for African Americans than much of the South. California in the late 19th century was undergoing explosive growth. Railroads carved through mountains. Cities expanded. Oil fields began to pump black gold from the earth. The atmosphere was charged with invention. Young Richard Spikes absorbed this environment. He showed early signs of mechanical curiosity, a fascination with how machines moved, how gears meshed, how energy was converted from one form to another. Like many inventors of his era, his education was not confined to formal classrooms. He learned through experience, by observing, dismantling, repairing, and rebuilding. Spikes attended public schools in California and later studied engineering principles through both practical work and independent study. He did not have the institutional advantages afforded to white inventors who might access elite engineering schools or well-funded laboratories. Instead, he relied on a combination of raw intellect, hands-on experimentation, and relentless determination. That determination will become the defining thread of his life.
The internet has evolved, and now more than ever, businesses need a way for their users to communicate.
The automobile industry in the early 20th century was still in its adolescence. Companies such as the Ford Motor Company and others were refining mass production, but the automobile itself was far from perfected. Engines overheated, fuel systems clogged. Drivers struggled with unreliable ignition mechanisms. Safety features were rudimentary. Each of these flaws represented a problem waiting for a solution, and Richard Spikes saw opportunity in each mechanical weakness. In 1907, Spikes patented an improved beer tapping device, demonstrating his versatility. He was not limited to automobiles. He was, at heart, a problem solver. Yet it was the automobile that would draw much of his inventive focus. By 1910, he had developed improvements to valve mechanisms that enhanced engine performance. These innovations were part of a larger pattern. Spikes recognized inefficiencies in existing systems and designed mechanisms to address them. One of his most notable contributions was his development of an automatic gear shift transmission in the 1930s. At a time when drivers were accustomed to manually shifting gears, a process that required skill and coordination, Spikes envisioned a system that would simplify the driving experience. His patent for an automatic transmission predated the widespread commercial introduction of automatic transmissions by major manufacturers. The significance of this cannot be overstated. Automatic transmissions would later become standard in American vehicles, reshaping driving culture and expanding accessibility. Spikes also developed improvements in fuel distribution systems. He patented a gasoline distributor, an innovation designed to ensure more efficient delivery of fuel within an engine. In the early days of automotive engineering, inconsistent fuel distribution could reduce performance and increase wear. By refining this process, Spikes contributed to smoother engine operation and greater reliability. Perhaps one of his most influential automotive-related inventions was an early version of a turn signal system. In 1913, Spikes patented a directional signal device for automobiles. At that time, drivers often relied on hand signals to communicate turns or stops. The roads were becoming busier. Horse-drawn carriages shared space with motor cars. Confusion could lead to collisions. Spike's signaling device represented a forward-thinking approach to road safety. While modern turn signals evolved through various stages of refinement, early inventors like Spikes laid the conceptual groundwork for the standardized systems we take for granted today. He did not confine himself to cars alone. Spikes invented a combination milk bottle opener and cap lifter, an improved barber chair, and even a portable voting machine. His range of interests reflects a restless intellect unwilling to be boxed into a single industry. Yet automobiles remained central to his mechanical imagination. Despite his patents, Spikes faced significant challenges in monetizing his inventions. The patent system in the United States theoretically offered protection to inventors, regardless of race. However, enforcement and commercialization required capital, legal resources, and industrial partnerships, areas where systemic discrimination often placed black inventors at a disadvantage. Securing investment could prove nearly impossible. Negotiating with large corporations required access, and influence rarely extended to African American innovators in the early 20th century. There is evidence that Spikes sold some of his patent rights to larger companies. This was not uncommon among inventors who lacked the means to manufacture at scale. Yet the act of selling patents often meant surrendering long-term profits for short-term financial relief. For black inventors especially, such transactions could be fraught with inequity. While exact financial records are difficult to reconstruct, it is clear that Spikes did not build a vast industrial empire from his innovations. Instead, his ideas were absorbed into the broader automotive ecosystem, benefiting manufacturers and consumers more visibly than they benefited the inventor himself. The early automotive industry was dominated by powerful corporations, including entities like the Ford Motor Company and General Motors. These companies controlled production, distribution, and marketing. Independent inventors could contribute technology, but unless they secured advantageous contracts, they risked losing control over their intellectual property. In Spike's case, his automatic transmission patent and other mechanical improvements did not make him a household name. They became part of a larger narrative in which corporate brands overshadowed individual contributors. Spike's life must also be understood within the broader context of black inventors in American history. Figures such as Elijah McCoy, known for his lubrication systems, and Garrett Morgan, inventor of an improved traffic signal, navigated similar barriers. Like Spikes, they patented inventions that became foundational to modern industry. Yet their recognition often lagged far behind their impact. The early 20th century was a period of both technological revolution and entrenched segregation. Black ingenuity fueled progress, even as black citizens were excluded from full participation in the rewards of that progress. In 1932, Spikes patented a device that combined an automatic transmission with a braking mechanism, further demonstrating his deep understanding of vehicle dynamics. This innovation reflected his ongoing commitment to improving driver experience and safety. The automobile was no longer a novelty. It was becoming a necessity. By enhancing usability, Spikes contributed to the democratization of driving. He continued inventing into the 1940s, including improvements to airplane cockpit controls and safety systems. The expansion of aviation during and after World War I opened new frontiers in engineering. Spike's adaptability allowed him to move between industries with confidence. He was not confined by a single technological wave. He rode them all. Yet the theme of lost or underleveraged patents persisted. Selling patent rights often meant that subsequent refinements and mass production would bear another company's branding. Consumers might praise a manufacturer's innovation, unaware of the independent inventor whose blueprint made it possible. This dynamic contributed to the erasure of figures like Spikes from mainstream historical memory. The absence of widespread recognition does not diminish the measurable impact of his work. Modern vehicles, equipped with automatic transmissions and standardized signaling systems, reflect decades of cumulative innovation. Early patents such as those filed by Richard Bowie Spikes were stepping stones in that evolution. Technological progress rarely emerges from a single mind. It is layered, iterative, collaborative across time. Spike's contributions were part of that layered architecture. He lived until 1965, witnessing the transformation of the automobile from a fragile experiment to a dominant force in American life. By the mid-20th century, highways stretched across the nation. Suburbs expanded. Car culture shaped music, advertising, and identity. The mechanical problems that once plagued early motorists had been largely resolved through innovations like those Spikes envisioned decades earlier. Recognition of his work has grown slowly in recent decades, as historians and scholars revisit the contributions of black inventors who were overshadowed by corporate narratives. Archival research into patent records has illuminated the scope of his creativity. Museums and educational institutions increasingly highlight inventors whose stories were marginalized. Richard Bowie Spikes represents a broader truth about innovation in America. The myth of the lone industrial magnate often obscures the reality that progress depends on countless minds working in obscurity. It also reveals how structural inequality shapes who benefits from invention. Patents offer legal recognition, but economic power determines who converts recognition into wealth. Spike's life invites reflection on intellectual property itself. A patent is both shield and commodity. It can protect an idea, but can also be transferred, diluted, or absorbed. For inventors without capital, selling a patent may be the only viable path. In Spike's era, racial discrimination compounded this vulnerability. Access to financing, manufacturing facilities, and distribution networks was deeply unequal. Even with legal rights secured, practical barriers remained formidable. The narrative of Richard Bowie Spikes is not one of victimhood alone. It is also a testament to perseverance. Over decades, he continued to imagine, design, and patent. He did not abandon innovation despite obstacles. That persistence reflects a profound belief in progress, a conviction that mechanical problems could be solved and that each solution improved daily life. His story resonates in the broader tapestry of American industrial history. The automobile reshaped cities, economies, and social patterns. Improvements in transmission systems and signaling devices enhanced safety and accessibility. While major corporations refined and mass-produced these technologies, independent inventors like Spikes helped push the boundaries of possibility. Today, scholars examining patent archives see his name repeatedly. Each filing represents hours of drafting, testing, and documentation. Each patent application required navigating bureaucratic processes. For a black inventor in the early 20th century, each filing was also an act of defiance against a system that frequently minimized black intellectual achievement. The late recognition of his work speaks to the importance of historical reevaluation. As narratives expand to include overlooked contributors, figures like Richard Bowie Spikes reclaim their place in the story of technological progress. His improvements to automotive systems were not isolated curiosities. They were part of a continuum that shaped modern transportation. In considering why he lost the patents, one must interpret the phrase carefully. Legally, he secured patents for his inventions. The loss was less about paperwork and more about power. The benefits of mass production, branding, and long-term revenue often flowed elsewhere. His ideas survived and thrived within larger corporate structures, while his personal legacy faded from public awareness. Yet history, though slow, can correct its omissions. The study of inventors like Spikes reveals the diversity of minds that built the modern world. It challenges simplistic narratives and invites a richer understanding of innovation as a collective endeavor marked by unequal opportunity. Richard Bowie Spikes died in 1965, leaving behind a record of ingenuity that continues to inspire historians and engineers alike. His life illustrates both the promise and the paradox of the American patent system. It affirms that creativity flourishes even under constraint, And it reminds us that progress is often powered by individuals whose names are not emblazoned on factory gates, but whose ideas turn the wheels nonetheless. In the quiet hum of an automatic transmission shifting seamlessly between gears, in the blinking reassurance of a turn signal guiding traffic safely through an intersection, echoes of early innovators persist. Among them stands Richard Bowie Spikes, a man who improved cars, strengthened systems, and expanded the possibilities of movement in the 20th century, even as the full measure of his rewards slipped through his hands. His legacy endures not in monuments, but in motion itself.
Damn shame. But let me hold on. What the hell is this? Oh, okay. So let me bring this up. I'm pretty sure everybody who is listening, who will listen, know about .com. .com was a thing back in the 90s. They were created by black people. The government did not want them to go public. They held them back until they were so much in debt, I guess, that they sold their .com idea to a white company. Then all of a sudden, that white company had the permission to go public and raised $20 billion from buying it from the black company for $8 million. You see how dirty white folks are? They created the patent office, but they ain't patenting the goddamn thing. More than likely, 99.9% of the time, they get their ideas from black people. And so, as we move forward, I want that to be considered more so than anything else, that America would not be America if it was not for black people. There would be no America. King James, a black man, king of England, Scotland, and Ireland, created the 13 colonies. His son and grandson took over. It was the black man and who created the Magna Carta that influenced the United States Constitution, and the Iroquois Nation Constitution influenced the United States Constitution. You see, there's nothing that happens in a vacuum. It just doesn't. And so as we wrap it up and bring it into the X files of my X account, Twitter, I want you to be able to consider where we are as a people and who these so-called white boys and white girls truly are. They are fucked up in the game. They're not worth a motherfucking dime, penny, pence, nothing. Here we go. Now here we see the title Kenya, and these motherfuckers in Kenya are going along with the Epstein bullshit title Kenya. On the plane now with Maddie, we are about to take off for Amsterdam to Nairobi. We land the morning of the 19th in Amsterdam and late evening of the 19th in Nairobi. On Sunday morning, we fly into the bush to Cottage Camp and the Masai Mara, then to Sasab in 24-26, then on the 26th to Lamu to Peponi Hotel, and back January the 4th. We cannot thank you enough yet another life experience. If the Maasai warrior don't eat us, the pirates of Somalia will. Bullshit. Coming to PB is to see you in January. This is from Peggy. We'll have a ball and think of you all the time. Can bring a little baby back for you, or two, boys or girls. So Madonna. We'll email when we get to Amsterdam. Saw Sarah, the Duchess, on Today Show and Regis today. She was very compelling. A tad sad that she repeatedly said the monarchy pulled her and Andrew apart when they were married, just like monarchy tried to control Victoria and her youth. Bet the Queen is thrilled Fergie's failed marriage is her fault. But Sarah was very charming on TV. Sorry we didn't do the lunch. We were all too rushed to get out of town. Totally missed you. XOXO Peggy. Guys, this shit runs deep. And the more stuff gonna come out, the more gross it's gonna make your fucking stomach turn. Here, these people are known to do this shit. Like the AI girl who we're talking about, white crime, white on white crime. It is prevalent and at the nth degree more deadly, not only in America but around the world. Jews are devil worshippers, and they are. They worship Satan. A neo-Nazi Trump supporter, Aaron Gorham, has been arrested for sexually abusing his own toddler-age children and possession of 2,700 child sex abuse files. Now, Aaron Gorham. Trump pledged to release the Jeffrey Epstein client list, has Bill Gates and other globalist creeps terrified. The Trump administration will be pursuing criminal prosecution for the sex trafficking network orchestrated by the Biden administration. They cannot be forgiven. There is no peaceful resolution where any of them ever breathe freely. Supporting Biden's people and their evil agenda is supporting trafficking of primarily women and children, and to absolute determination of devastation of the values and principles, well-being, and ultimately of the lives of common decent people of our country and of our world. Here. Now this is so important because as we go into the 26th of this 2 days more, you're going to see Africa as a continent united, taking over everything and taking back control of everything. Why does Switzerland, which does not cultivate cocoa, make 16 billion from it, while Ghana gets crumbs? The small European nation of Switzerland, a country that doesn't even grow cocoa, makes over 16 billion a year from chocolate. Meanwhile, Ghana, one of the world's largest cocoa producers, earns only a fraction of that from exporting raw beans. Because Africa exports raw materials and the West exports finished product. Ghana grows the cocoa, Europe processes it, Europe brands it, and Europe sells it. That's going to stop without me having to read all of this. That's going to stop. Now, this one, a lot of you may not know that the KKK is nothing but a bastardized extension of Moorish masonry stolen directly from your ancestral architect thoughts. And that's true. Let's watch it again.
The KKK is nothing but a bastardized extension of Moorish masonry stolen directly from your ancestral archetype. They didn't even invent the name Ku Klux Klan. It's a stolen acronym for Kukulkan, the feathered serpent deity worshipped by the Moorish people of the Yucatan long before Jesuit assassins co-opted that draconian magic. Those white robes and conical hoods came straight from the Negro order of the Knights of Seville in Spain, as documented in J.A. Rogers' 100 Amazing Facts About the Negro. You see those Holy Week processions in Spain today? That is Caucasians dressing as Moorish penitents because they inherited all of that from the Moors who ruled them for 700 years.
Even the chasing of the bulls in Spain is a ritual mockery. The Moor represents the bull being chased out of Spain, a celebration of your deposition disguised as sport. It's the same with the swarthy Pete, Zwarte Piet ritual, which is a reminiscent memory of the Moors bringing the gift of life to Europeans dying in the dark caves. They dress in blackface to celebrate you not existing while they parade in your ancestral habits. The white man is just an imitator who inherited those priestly habits to terrorize dead Moors. Kanye West wearing those black KKK hoods isn't an accident. He is a Gemini wild card acting out a Masonic ritual in the same bed as Donald Trump, signaling the total collapse of the corporate United States and disclosing that the original order was melanated. Even Tupac knew the truth. He called himself Machiavelli because he knew about the Venetian oligarchy and the demonic sigils like the Tupac EP or EpiPen used to trap your soul force in an ethereal blood chain net of adrenochrome-backed cryptocurrency that is currently being exposed to masses through the Epstein files. So let's cut the nonsense. The movie Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire shows Death Eaters wearing these conical hoods to represent occult Moorish magic. But Hollywood turns it evil once again to make you run from your own power. The system turned the priestly garments of our ancestors into the witch's hat and the dunce cap to turn us away from our own science and make the ignorant view our power as evil and demonic. The massive witch hunts in history, just like the events documented in Salem, were actually a targeted purge of the Moorish priesthood in America. These witches were actually members of specific melanated bloodlines who held the ancestral connection to ancient magic that the invaders were trying to steal and shift back to Europe. They burned our priests at the stake to destroy the Moorish systems of science and the Grail bloodline that goes back to the original creator. The conical caps was originally designed to increase blood flow to the brain, acting as a spiritual tuning fork. You must realize that the KKK was created by stealing the Moorish science and culture of the Moors through suckers like Albert Pike, stealing straight from the Negro Order of the Knights of Seville, because these decoys never created anything of their own. The KKK was not just a ragtag group of racists. It was a quasi-political organization legally sanctioned by the pseudo-United States government. Its true purpose was to function as a militia for land theft, specifically targeting the original Moorish landowners, so-called black people who held the Allo deal titles to this continent. They created the U.S. citizen as a fictitious status to place you under their trust as a mentally dead person, while the Klan was used to enforce this transition through a Black Sun ritual of terror, which is all our stolen sciences. Don't ever forget that they didn't create anything. Nothing new under the sun.
Need I say more? Here we are. We're going to watch it again. This is another one.
All of them. You name your biggest black actors, you name your biggest white actors, you name your biggest female Latino actresses, they all have to do it. A blood oath. Now you bend over. Now every orifice that you have is going to be annihilated. All these guys, they take your humanity from you. You know how the feminist movement has categorized men. I think that what was his name? Samuels had the podcast that women hated. Kevin Samuels.
Kevin Samuels, yes.
Kevin Samuels was eliminated because they didn't want to go back to that. They want these women ignorant and twerking. They want kids running around the street. If they don't pay the income tax, they put them in the penitentiary and they get their money out.
So if you want to be famous, you want a lot of wealth, you want a lot of, power, whatever the case may be, you got to be willing to bend over and get fucked in your ass and sucking dick and having sperm all shot up in your motherfucking face. Bottom line. Let's keep it moving. This is the video of Peter Nygaard, Jeffrey Epstein associate, attempting to purchase babies from black women, saying whatever I bid, he's going to outbid me. I'll buy $60,000 worth of eggs, umbilical cord, and placenta, even period juice or whatever that period blood.
Stem cell technology that Peter and I are investing in is called SCNT, which takes the egg of a young, fertile woman specimen, takes the egg and takes out the nucleus and puts our DNA in the nucleus. They just go ahead and take it out. Huh? Yeah, and this is part of this genetic greatness that we don't see in any other race on the planet. These curvy, sexy black women from Africa. Negroes have a kind of a monopoly on this genetic perfection, and we want some of that. So, girls, for $100, we will pay you for your egg. I pay you $100? So how much do you want for it? Let's bid. I bid $500. Whoever I bid, you can outbid me. $500, $60,000 a week. Yeah. Do we have that? If you have a portion, that's very valuable. Umbilical cord, placenta. Even your period blood is so rich with stem cells. We regard it as waste, and it actually should be. It should be captured, it's recycled, and it should go to waste. It's life for somebody else. It's life for mankind. They're the best things are 60 to 18 years old. Those are the best things. As you get older, you actually get to be So, you may not be our top. No, that's fine. That was my business anyway.
They're using a guy to keep young, to stay young, to be young. The adrenochrome, same shit. These people are sick, you guys. Sick. They're not sick. They're beyond sick. You just don't know. I'm not here to report on them to say this, that, and the other. It's not true. I bring fucking receipts, goddammit. Let's watch this again.
You think the movie Gangs of New York is just about some white beef in the 5 Points? No. It is showing you an occupation in real time. Long before those boats ever arrived, the Lenape, the Choctaw, the Chickasaw, the Cherokee, the Seminole, the Mohawk, the Narragansett, and the Washita, who were the original Moorish tribes, were right here ruling and defending their own land with Aladial sovereignty. Look at the walls. That is not set design. It is documentation. DiCaprio walks past framed indigenous Moors clueless to the fezzes, turbans, and liberty caps. Those images are there to tell you that. So-called black people were already established in New York long before the manufactured white origin story ever got. In fact, the name New York itself traces back to York, a Moorish indigenous black man whose role in early America gets deliberately minimized. He was a guide, pathfinder, and diplomat, leading Europeans through forests and territories they did not know how to survive in. There are statues of York today, most notably in Portland, Oregon, Washington Park. Standing tall is a rare public commemoration of an indigenous black man who shaped American geography before the corporate rewrite. Now look at Tammany Hall. That was not politics, that was an occupation headquarters. The name itself comes from Tamanin, the Lenape chief, literally tan man in a hat, a direct reference to the Moorish fez. The name Manhattan itself is Tai Tamanin, tan man in a hat. Look at the first city hall, the 44 Union Square. That symbol at the top is the Lenape Moorish fez stamped into stone, marking the Moorish origin of the ground the whole corrupt system was built on. Boss Tweed ran New York like a captured city, robbing it through ballots, debt, and legal paperwork instead of open warfare. Tweed was described as the most corrupt man on earth, a killer whose methods and science were later studied and adopted by Hitler and Nazi Germany. This history is so sensitive that if you mention Boss Tweed or Tammany Hall to a lawyer today, they will shut up, because those names represent the true corrupt origin of the current legal system. That whole 5 Points zone, Canal Street, Tribeca, Greenwich Village, was known as Little Africa, Lenape Land, and the Lenape were Moors. When the Bowery Boys occupied the entrance to Broadway on Wall Street, specifically to terrorize the original Moors out of their territory. They acted as street-level enforcers, terrorizing the original Moorish population until they could be reclassified as Indian, Negro, or contraband to strip the original inhabitants of their international standing and steal their allodial land titles, to box us into the 14th Amendment slave status and facilitate the takeover of our estates. The Lenape were Moors, and they were already living, organizing, and owning the land long before the immigrant influx. The very trails they used for travel became Broadway, and their underground trails were expanded to become the New York City subway, showing that reality would collapse the immigrant turf war myth. That was a calculated population replacement strategy. They shipped in Slavic and Slovenian populations as weaponized labor under the Transportation Act, which was a legal form of white slavery. These immigrants were handed guns and uniforms to fight in recovery wars like the Civil War, to seize land from the indigenous Moorish proprietors. The rampant savagery manufactured by these gangs provided the perfect pretext to establish the NYPD, which was formed not for public safety, but to act as militarized catchers and enforcers for the municipal corporate state. By the end of the film, as that corporate skyline rises over the graves, you are looking at a parasitic city built directly on top of Moorish sovereignty. So again, the movie Gangs of New York is not about gangs fighting for survival. It is about how America was reorganized, how people were imported to take land from indigenous people, how black presence was buried, and how a corporate city was built on top of Moorish sovereignty. The movie shows the violence. The walls show the truth, and the absence of black people tells you everything they don't want you to ask. The Bowery Boys, the Dead Rabbits, and the 40 Thieves weren't just products of urban poverty. They were manufactured tools of an occupational force, imported and positioned to clear both the land and the ancestral memory of the original inhabitants.
Well, I tell you, truth always comes out. There are three things you cannot hide forever: the sun, the moon, and the truth. Before the island, they did it right in your face. Look at it.
Y'all notice what's happening here?
Are they?
They're
They're
not
not blue. Now don't
Bunch
tell me
of
that.
grown men,
Look at
grown white men, who's doing too.
They're green.
Y'all think it's just
These
accidental.
motherfuckers got problems.
Just watch and observe.
They've been doing it.
You talk about getting married and having a family and things like that. No, you don't. What do you do when you're 11 years old for a date? Where do you go? What are some things you do?
We just walk home from school with each other.
And you walk home from school with each other. Okay, what category? You hand out kisses, Jennifer? You look like a young lady who likes to give lots of hugs and kisses out, do you? Hey? Hey?
Not really.
Not really. Not really. Can I have a hug and a kiss? I can't have one?
Mm-mm.
Even if I say and whisper in your ear that Allison, you're gonna win the show, I still can't have a hug and a kiss? Well, I guess you can't win the show then. If I don't get a hug and a kiss. Yeah, you hear that? Yeah, you hear that? That's a good answer. Oh, you.
You know what? You know, they do it because they're in power, because they have no moral construct, no moral authority. They have immoral construct and immoral authority, because they're not being checked by anyone. This white boy got it's beyond mental problem. Beyond fucking mental problem. Let's keep it going. Developing fans of hip-hop have been addressing the conspiracy of satanic sex blackmail on the internet amid Nicki Minaj's expose. On May 26, 2021, New York rapper Smart exposed how some artists in the music industry are drugged and raped. I'll be right back.
They got rituals on the see. You got the right one.
I don't know about rituals.
I know so much.
See, what happens is right here.
So I don't feel uncomfortable saying about it. What I told you, the devil's job is to take as many souls as possible. The music industry is satanic. When I say it's still the same gatekeepers, what I mean by that is a company called Vivendi. Period. Vivendi. Y'all can Google that. Vivendi owns Viacom. It's umbrella companies. This shit don't change, right? That's one. Two, with the music business, once they see you got potential to be influential over the masses, so when they get proposition and they see a car, they don't know, don't drink after a nigga. They don't know a nigga going.
They never been in the street. They don't know the
now look, I'm gonna tell you, bro. Look, I'm gonna tell you a story because I ain't really trying to put niggas out there, right? But a nigga in the studio, we from the hood. I used to stick niggas up, bro. Babyface, I used to book niggas. So I'm always on point, bro. I'm on point right now, my nigga. Always on my square. But a nigga that's a square, he don't know. Yeah. So he don't know why shit drink. He don't know. So now he drink behind a nigga. He get drugged. They rape this nigga. They rape this nigga. Videotape it. Then when he in a meeting, they give him a shitty contract. They play the video of him getting fucked by like 3 niggas. He ain't never been through shit like that. So he like, man. Well, fuck it, I'm just gonna sign. And you gonna give me money? So rather than get that story put out, he gonna sign that bad contract, which is a 360 deal. He gonna take that advance, which is recoupable anyway. So they gonna give him the money just to take back and own the rights to his shit. I'm sitting here with 5 niggas that got the same look like
I'm telling y'all, they fucking niggas around out here. Y'all, they are fucking niggas around. They giving niggas some shit that ain't really what you think. Fuck around, wake up tomorrow, shit, ass nigga with a footy on. Don't know what the fuck you just did. I mean, real shit. Your motherfucker meat pistol fucked up and your ass hurt. You don't know what the fuck to say. You don't know who to tell. But this is what the game is going to. That's what it's going to. Then, here it is, the time for a contract to come out. Nigga want to sign you for 5 years. You like, nah, dog. So you don't want to sign with us? Nah. Not for no nah. Man, pop in the tape. Show this nigga what he did last night. I'm serious. Dude, this real shit I'm telling y'all though. Pop in the tape. You sitting that motherfucker like, man, what the fuck? Yeah, well, what the fuck? That's what happened. You got fucked. What you gonna do? You gonna sign that contract. You don't want nobody in the hood to see that shit. You don't want this shit to get out, dog. I'm telling y'all, and this is what I'm telling y'all like this. These niggas that you see constantly happy, they're not getting happy because they like to happy. They get happy because they know what they've done.
Send the stylist at them first.
Yeah.
And if the stylist report back and be like, oh, he ready, then they invite you to the party. And that's when they be like, yo, look, you go in here, it's going to be some, you know what I mean? It's a nigga at the door.
Okay, now look, what Ali Vegas is doing to you right now, he's giving you the game of how these niggas be getting turned the fuck out.
Yeah, like
they try to put this tight ass shirt on you.
That's what they do.
And if you wear the shirt,
they like, oh, he ready.
He with it.
That's you telling them like, yeah, I'm ready. And then next thing you know, you get invited to the party with the greeting is the man squeezing your dick.
Whoa.
Boy, I tell you, this shit. And here's another one. This is only 15 seconds, but I'm gonna play it in a comment. Hold on. Now, for the people who got fucked in the ass, who didn't want to get fucked in the ass, they just drank something and pass out. The next thing you know, your ass hurting and you gotta sign the contract, and here's all their money. I'm killing every motherfucker in that goddamn room. I wouldn't give a fuck. You know what I mean? Man, I'm telling you, this world is turned upside down and inside out. You don't know whether to piss or go blind. And you see me being upset, this ain't got shit to do with the Epstein file. It got everything to do with it. I'm just saying the magnitude of the pictures and the videos fucking make your stomach turn. I remember this was early 20s, and I heard about two girls in a cup. Yeah, I was like, yeah, right. Ain't nobody drinking and eating shit and piss and all that. White folk do it all the time. PoolPgirls.com. PoolPgirls.com. Look that shit up. They're having sex in groups of 2 through 12, whatever. Pissing and shitting on each other, eating and drinking the piss and vomiting it back up, and having sex in it again. The BBC, these are the so-called chosen people of God. They're not. They worship Satan. I'll be right back.
The BBC World Service has compiled material on over 160 cases where children have been shot in Gaza and found that in 95 cases, the child
Israeli Jews are hunting children for fun, shooting them in the head.
Was shot in the head or the chest. In most of these cases, the victim was under 12 years old. The cases we found run from the first. The BBC World Service.
This pastor, MAGA pastor Bobby Leonard, said if girls dress a certain way, they deserve to get raped because a man's a man. Okay, let's see what he said. Can't really hear it.
A man's a man. Man's a man. God's a boy. I said,
Well, you get the point. I'm sorry for the volume. It's not very high. Let's see. Yeah, it's all the way up. So this one, wait, what? Let's listen to it.
Cannibalism might seem kind of gruesome, and kind of is. I'm going to give you a little background of what got me to this position to run this bill. Back in 2019, I heard that Washington State was starting to do human composting, and that disturbed me. I wanted to address this because what I didn't want to see is bags of compost with human bone fragments. I want to stop it getting into the human food supply. I was on a plane this summer, watched a video of some food show, and the three contestants tasted the food and they had to guess what was in it. It was some kind of a sausage. And one of the options they told these people that was in the food was human flesh.
Can you tell us the 3 secret ingredients that might be found in this amazing sausage that you made for us today?
The 3 secret ingredients that might be found in the sausage are fish liver, human flesh, or shark.
Are those really the 3 ingredients?
Yeah, fish liver, human flesh, or shark.
Is this
separate?
Is it?
And there's a stigma surrounding this.
We're good. All right, please. All right. Yo. Thank you, kids. Thank you very much. All right, Joe. Fish liver, shark, or human flesh?
God help you, it better be shark.
All right, 2. What do you think it's going to be?
Shark too.
Shark?
The liver is like too obvious, and I don't think it's human flesh, so I think it's shark.
Chef, can you tell us what is the secret ingredient in this dish? Yes, I'm afraid you're both wrong. It is human flesh.
No. No.
Whoa.
That's not okay. That's not all right.
The way our society's going and the direction we're going, this is going to be normalized. There's only one state in the union that it is illegal, cannibalism is illegal, and that is Idaho.
Man, fuck you. You understand where the fuck I'm going with this shit? White folks are fucked up. The only fucking state out of the 50 is only Idaho, motherfuckers? And it's gonna be normal? No, bitch. You see, all of this shit goes back to Greece and how they are. These motherfuckers ain't worth a damn. White folks ain't shit. They're nasty, they're disgusting, they're dirty, and they have no qualm about a motherfucking thing. Killing innocent children, shooting them in the head and chest, and stealing their organs. This is what the Israeli Jews do. They worship Satan. They don't give a fuck about Tikkun Olam. They don't give a fuck about the Torah. They give a fuck about God, gold, oil, and diamonds, motherfucker. They have no reality check. They have no God within them. And you just heard it. This motherfucker is serving human flesh. Human fucking flesh. And it will be normalized in all 50 states but one, which is Idaho. You have got to be out your motherfucking mind, white boy. You think you're going to be lasting for any length of time? Now, Bombshell resurfaced video Bill Gates in his own words from 8 years ago. He explains that in every country where his foundation has provided new medicines, population growth rates have collapsed. I'll be right back.
Now, 11 billion people still a lot, but the good news is that the faster we improve health, the faster family size goes down. In this year's annual letter, Melinda and I take the toughest questions we get asked and give our answers. One that's come up for a long time is, as we make the world healthier, is the population going to get so big that feeding everybody and maintaining the environment is going to be impossible? Here we can see a chart that looks at the total world population over the last several hundred years. And at first glance, this is a bit scary. We go from less than 1 billion in 1800, and then 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7.4 billion where we are today is happening even faster. So Melinda and I wondered whether providing new medicines and keeping children alive, would that create more of a population problem? What we found out is that as health improves, families choose to have less children. And this effect is very, very dramatic. We find that in every country of the world, this is repeated. The population growth goes down as we improve health. So we've taken that chart that shows the global population growth, and we've actually extended it out all the way to 2100. And we can see that instead of continuing, it actually flattens out. Another way to see that is through this rate of population growth. And you can see that in the 60s, that reached a pretty high number, over 2% per year, and it's now come way, way down. Now, 11 billion people, still a lot, but the good news is that the faster we improve health, the faster family size goes down. And so we can feel great about saving those lives.
Man, look. Hold on. I don't want to do this yet. Hold on. There are plants like the groundnut, other species of plant like the cottontail that can feed tens of billions of people. We don't have a problem with feeding nobody. What we have is a problem with these white motherfuckers like Bill Gates and others who think they can rule the world and control it. What they're trying to do is save their funky ass because they're out of here. White people are not producing. They want to block out the sun and they want to stop the growth of black people, brown people. Who the fuck is Bill Gates to decide what the normal rate of growth of people on the planet? He had done enough. Kill this motherfucker. Kill him. No arrest. He has done enough. We already know he is guilty of war crimes and crimes against humanity. He made hundreds of billions of dollars from the vaccine. Now we go to the BAFTAs where this Tourette guy was saying niggas. And Google, for some reason, had it out on display at Google. Let's listen.
This is a screenshot from my very good friend Lydia that was in her notifications on her phone. I have made it a point to not curse on my page, but seriously, Google, what the fuck? We're tired. This is the worst Black History Month I have ever experienced in my entire life. This is shameful.
"14 African countries called Francophones Wednesday got their independence. The French forced them to deposit their foreign currencies in French banks, $500 billion a year. And when they need that money, they have to take it out as a loan with interest. Without African countries, France would be bankrupt tomorrow. Today. They are so sadistic they killed 22 African leaders because they tried to break away from France. It's over for France. You know what I mean? Let's listen to Traore.
Through communication, they managed to... The colonization of Africa ever actually ended? If you look at the math, the answer is a terrifying no. France takes home an estimated $500 billion a year from its former colonies. While the world thinks these nations gained independence in the 60s, France essentially left the back door open to their bank vaults. It's called France-Afrique, and it is the most lucrative endeavor the nation has ever done. But why is France suddenly scared of this guy? Ibrahim Traore, the leader of Burkina Faso. Through communication, they managed to rewrite history. And with African history as well, they schemed everything to spread lies. And as a result, some young Africans don't even know the history of Africa, what Africa has accomplished. Some don't even know that our grandparents fought, put on the front lines as cannon fodder, and when they returned, they were killed like animals. France tested its first atomic bomb. It was black soldiers they placed nearby within the blast radius to see what would happen. Let's bring out the archives. Everything they've used against Africa has been documented. To understand the rebellion, we have to look at the invisible cage France built and how Traore is finally breaking the bars. When France granted independence, it came with a catch called the Colonial Pact. It forced 14 nations to use the CFA franc a currency literally created by France. To guarantee this currency, France required these countries to deposit their foreign currency reserves directly into the French treasury. At independence, they had to hand over 100%. Later, it was 65, and then subsequently 50. Think about that. Half of the nation's wealth, money earned from their own gold, oil, cocoa, and reserves, was sitting in a French bank. Africa was effectively lending its own money back to itself through France, often at interest. This isn't France's playbook. They did the same to Haiti, making Haiti pay for its independence, using a loan to pay back while taking goods at a 70% markdown. On top of that, the CFA is pegged to the euro. This means when the euro fluctuates in Brussels, African economies feel the shock, making their exports expensive and killing the local growth. It's not a partnership, it's a monetary prison. The West loves to label Africa as corrupt and lacking prowess when the West are the corrupt institutions keeping these countries from developing so they can maximize profits. Without Africa, France is poor. Ibrahim Traore is ripping up the script. In 2025 and 2026, he's led a movement to reclaim sovereignty. He's kicked out French troops, scrapped French as official language, and just hit a record 94 tons of gold production by tightening control over foreign firms. When Macron called Africans ungrateful, Traore fired back. France exists today thanks to our ancestors. They should pray for us. Traore and the alliance of Sahel states, Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso, are now moving to dump the CFA franc entirely. They are realizing that true independence isn't a flag or a song, it's taking direct control over your resources and your wallet. The West calls this instability, but for the people of the Sahel, it's finally ending the colonial era. Is this the start of total African era? Is this the start of a total African exit from the West? What do you guys think?
Alright, let's keep it moving. Now this is something else. Fuck around in full effect and find out. May it all crumble to hell. Let's get it.
Realize that almost like 95% of their payment processing went through United States payment systems. What really started this was when Visa canceled Russia. They cut them off from their networks in 2022. They thought ain't nobody see this. So if you cut him off, we didn't even think about that. They can just shut off our payment systems? They were like, oh, we have to immediately.
Oops. Hold on. Oh shit. I'm sorry. Let's start it again.
That almost like 95% of their payment processing went through United States payment systems. What really started this was when Visa canceled Russia. They cut them off from their networks in 2022. They thought ain't nobody see this. So if you cut him off, we didn't even think about that. They can just shut off our payment systems? They were like, oh, we have to immediately get some new payment systems in here because this is dangerous. The head of the European Payment Initiative, deep integration created dependencies that could be abused when not all partners were allies. So they didn't switch payment systems. It's called Wero, W-E-R-O. And they already have 48.5 million people using the system. And by 2027, they're going to remove all of their stuff out of Visa and MasterCard and put it into their domestic payment system. Do you know what that's going to do? I'll tell you. That's going to cost American system $24 trillion. 1.4 trillion of that is MasterCard alone. It processes over 7 trillion euros annually. It's 1.5% on the fees. That equates to about $21 billion we're about to lose. So that's Microsoft Teams, Visa, MasterCard. Who else? And they thought we were friends. They thought we were cool. There wasn't going to be no problems. We'll stick beside y'all. Y'all stick beside us. And then Trump came, second time, because it ain't us. We're not that evil. We wouldn't do that. But you didn't think it was going to happen this fast, which is what a lot of people are saying. They didn't think that they would be able to switch so quickly to a new payment processing system. And what's so great about their new payment processing system, you ask? I'll tell you. Their payment processing system is a tap to pay. It's a one-click checkout, and they have instant refunds. Not 7 to 10 business days in America. You took it instantly on my account. They called it a geopolitical urgency to unacceptable vulnerability to policy volatility. Is that not good? Because it's succinct. That's a proper sentence. Also, the ICE protests are causing such a problem overseas because everyone is seeing what's happening, especially what happened in Minnesota. They're redirecting their investment dollars. They're investing in Canada and Europe now. This is what has to happen. You have to see the consequences of your choices. You don't want to play with nobody nicely. You think everybody's sweet. Okay.
Now we're going to see the New York Times is utterly disgusting. Pedophilia, a disorder, not a crime. Man, fuck you. Fuck you. I mean, seriously, fuck you. And here, this is more than disgusting. Let's see.
I know, it was just like a normal day at school. I was just trying to get home, get on the bus. And as soon as I get on the bus driver told me that I was supposed to be on the bus. And today she gonna make sure I'm gonna get off the bus, so don't even sit down. So once I sit down, she pulled up to the administrators. The administrators get on the bus. And they automatically thought I was on the wrong bus. When she told them my name, they got on the bus and just told me to get off the bus. At first I refused. And then when I was refusing, they said if I don't get off the bus, all the students have to get off the bus. So once all the students got up off the bus, I got off the bus with the students. And then as soon as we all get off the bus, they didn't check nobody's names. They just told everybody to get back on the bus. As I get back on the bus, they told me to get off. And that's when they called the officers. When I sit down, the officers had came on the bus. They asked who was the student they was talking about. And the bus driver had pointed me out. They came back. They asked me to get off the bus. I had refused and told them this. Well, I was trying to tell them this is my bus, but the students was telling them that this is my correct bus. All the students on the bus was telling them this was my correct bus. Then, out of nowhere, one of the officers had said, if you don't get up and get off the bus or we're going to tase you. I said, I still refused to get off the bus. And that's when they tried to pull me and grab me. And when I got back up, when I had got back up, he had choked me, tried to choke me. Then he tased me. And when he tased me, I got up. I was still, I don't know, my adrenaline was just rushing. And I just know that he tried to tase me again while I was getting off the bus. I jumped off the bus. And when I was off the bus, they put me in some handcuffs. And the officer who tased me had started slapping me while my hands was in the handcuffs. He was slapping me, then he tried to tase me again while my hands was in the handcuffs. That's when the administrators came back outside and tried to break it up. But he was already in the midst of slapping me. And when they broke it up, he was still running towards me. He was still trying to attack me while my hands was in handcuffs. He was trying to push against the administrators who was holding him back. Every time he seen me. When I was in a room with the other officers after this situation, when he seen me, he tried to attack me again. They had to pull him back and pull him away to cool down.
Just because some of us don't got no sense, don't mean y'all gotta treat everybody like this. This young man was literally just trying to make it home. And nobody wants to listen. Because there's a lot of people that give us bad raps. But at the same time, the people who did this to this young man need to be held accountable. So go ahead, please share this post and get it the recognition it deserves. Because they wanted the recognition and thinking that they were a hero when they were just pissed off that they didn't get their way. That was a child. That was a child. That could have been your child. I got a daughter. You gotta have kids. Not everybody on here has kids, but compassion. Just being a human being. Why is it so difficult for people to just communicate or just hear somebody out? No. People like to be right. Everybody wants to be right. This shit is disgusting. Share this post. Help this young man get justice.
He said human. These motherfuckers are not human. They're humanoid. White people are not human. The only human beings on the planet are black people. The true Homo sapiens sapiens. This is a scientific fact. Now here you got Trump is about to leave the office. Let's see what he has to say.
That election wasn't great. Guy that never left his base for COVID was a little bit of a shield. Things going on. We drink by midnight. That election wasn't every single one of the people in this room right now would not be here. Be home with your son, daughter, family. In a strong border, we solved it. Twice down, we solved it. In 2016, the border was bad. Nothing like it was this time. It's like beautiful compared to this time. This was legendary. In the history of the world, there's never been a border like this. Millions of people. At least 25 million people. And many of them were the wrong people. Many. You know, when countries fill up caravans, they don't fill them up with their finest. I wouldn't. And I would do exactly what they did. The United States was willing to take all of our criminals, people, or people that don't work. But they are smart people. I got to know most of those people. I said, what do you do? It's a totally open border. You save hundreds of millions of dollars. Us, we've done a great job. Come home, of people.
It looked like he's on his way out because from what I read, Iran, or Iran, or whatever you want to call it, had the goods on them. They said if they attack Iran, they're going to deliver the Epstein files with him in it. And that must be true because this shit is really, really fucked up with Trump. Over 1 million times he was mentioned in the Epstein files. Now, this Asian woman explains history better than your school ever did. Let's listen.
Y'all want to know something that nobody's ready for in 2025 except for those who already seem to fucking know it? Black people are the aboriginals of every continent. Dark-skinned
Every continent. Did you just hear that? White people just got here 3,000 years ago. You haven't done a motherfucking thing. Get off of our BBC, bitches.
People are the aboriginals of every continent. Native Americans migrated over the ice bridge from Siberia, that would be Asia, and became what we now know as Native Americans. Yes, they lived off the land. Yes, they knew how to give back to it, so therefore they should be considered indigenous. But the people who were on that land before them and the ice bridge even formed were black people. Black people also built pyramids on every continent. That's why there are pyramids on every continent. The Buddha was a dark-skinned man. The Chinese, we have a lot of trouble denying that we come from melanin. We do. We've tried. We have not succeeded. The difference between us and every other group is that we can admit to the fact that we came from melanin. Why can't everybody else? It's not erasure to say that black people were the aboriginals of every country. We're not saying you didn't exist. We're saying you came after her. What's so hard to understand? Just like me saying that Koreans came from China. It's not me saying that they don't have their own culture. That's how all of these Korean nationalists took it in my comments. Oh, you're saying we don't have our own culture or genetic identity? No, I'm saying that culture and genetic identity came from us. If you are not tapped in, and you don't talk to marginalized groups, and haven't spent any time with them, y'all gonna be offended by what I'm saying. Some of y'all only research your own identity, and that's it. And that's the only content you make besides your mantra. Black people were here first. Black people were here first. Black people were here first. And whoever that...
Only a black person can fly a Israel flag and not get jumped by me because they were and are the original land of Israel first. Israel today is not the Israel of the Bible. The Israel of the Bible was governed and peopled by melanated folks. Deal with it. That hate for these white motherfuckers in every place on the fucking continent is coming back 1,000-fold, man. Y'all gonna get lit up.
pisses off, needs to leave my channel, needs to block me, all the above. Koreans, their genetics, their culture came from the Chinese, from what is now known as China. And where did the Chinese come from? Black people.
There it is.
Y'all want to know something that nobody's ready for in 20...
So, French immigrant. Now look. For the life of me, hold on. For the life of me, our ancestors in the 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, even into this very day, I guess, fought to get to have the right to eat in white restaurants. Are you fucking kidding me? To eat unseasoned chicken, unseasoned rice, and everything else undercooked and bleeding. Are you fucking kidding me? French immigrants in Senegal, and they got the nerve to go to Senegal and open up a motherfucking white-only restaurant, and they serving only white people. Are you fucking kidding me?
Il est temps que le Sénégal en entier dise non à cela. On ne peut pas avoir le code que c'est le client se partage entre Italiens et Français. Ça, c'est inadmissible. J'ai mon restaurant et ce n'est pas eux qui vont faire fermer mon restaurant. Il est inadmissible que de là, on pousse les gens à aller vers l'autre Italien. C'est inadmissible. Donc, j'appelle à la révolte. J'appelle le peuple sénégalais à dire non, non à ça. Nos codes nous appartiennent. Nos plages nous appartiennent. Soit vous payez des taxes hors normes ou foutez le camp. Ça va se passer ainsi. Ou sinon, on permettra plus personne de manger dans nos plages. Parce que nos plages sont à nous. Vous avez votre argent, notre plage sont à nous. Wallah Hazim. Et je serai pire qu'Ousmane Sonko dans ce pays-là. On va faire que vous allez foutre le camp. Vous croyez avoir de l'argent. Oui, d'accord. Mais ces plages nous appartiennent. Ces sols nous appartiennent. On va se la jouer ainsi. Soit vous entrez dans un restaurant africain, sénégalais, ou foutez le camp. On va pourrir la plage. On va pourrir la plage. Ça va se passer ainsi. Il est temps que le Sénégal...
Why is this motherfucker getting all bunched up? Who cares? Let white folk do what they want to do anyway. Who cares? Build a better restaurant and have your own food that's seasoned like you like it. Mr. Lucius Emerson. I think I covered this already before, but it's worth listening to again. This brother fucked up and killed white folks, the KKK. You see, white folks only attack the weaker element, children and women. They're not going to go up against brothers with guns, Negroes with guns, with a very powerful book and a lot of other ones. They're not going to do that. They're going to run every motherfucking time. Because the white boy is a bitch. I'll be right back.
What's up, everybody? Listen, I taught history for about 20 years in middle school, and I didn't like it because it didn't put us in a good light. The stuff that's coming out now, because of this internet, I love it. Check this out right here. I want you to remember this name, Mr. Lucius Emerson, out of Tuskegee, Alabama. They're not going to mention Tuskegee, but they will tell you it was Macon County. Macon County is Tuskegee, Alabama. Check this brother out. He's nothing but the truth. Oh.
Alabama elected a black sheriff in 1966, and the Klan put a $50,000 bounty on his head, but what Lucius Amerson did next made them regret it forever. When every white deputy quit, Amerson hired Vietnam veterans who killed for America and now killed for justice. His deputies didn't arrest Klan members. They disappeared them. 17 Klan leaders vanished during his 8 years. Must have left town, Amerson would say. The FBI investigated, but every black person in Macon County stayed silent. When the Klan shot up his house, 2 Klan families' barns mysteriously burned. When they bombed his office, 3 Grand Dragons got found floating in the river. He turned their terror tactics against them. White folks stopped wearing sheets real quick when the hunter became hunted. Alabama erased him from history books because he proved black power could destroy white supremacy. The Klan offered $50,000 for his head, but lost 20 members learning why you don't threaten a black sheriff with nothing to lose. Google won't show you this truth.
They're not going to do a motherfucking thing when you got a gun. Blackness is not just a color, it's a frequency. Listen intently and on purpose.
It's not a color, it's a frequency. It's a God frequency. They know that you are God, my brother. There's no nation of people on earth that don't hate black people because they know that black people are the true people. They know that everything comes from blackness. This whole universe is created from blackness, my brother. The whole universe is created by blackness. The hurt, dig in the hurt, cover up a seed. What do you have? Blackness. Everything comes out of blackness. You notice that Chinaman, he can't have nobody else. Everything he have look like him. The white man, everything that he have look like him. He cannot produce you, but you can produce him. No matter what he work out, he can never produce a black man. Nobody else can produce black people. When you look at the creativity of black people, my brother, that should tell you something in itself. You're here and you're here. You're the only person on this planet that have natural hair. You're the only person. Everybody else have animal hair. Look at it and look how it lay down. Most white people here, they hair lay down like a horse's mane. This is a natural antenna that you have, my brother. It curls. You know why it curls? Because it's an antenna. It's a conductor. It's your connection to your creator. That's why they don't like you here. That's why they don't want you to go in here, my brother. Because they're trying to separate you from who you are. You have a direct connection to the creator. What they call God. They know that's who you are. See, that's why even when this person with this in here, blackness is not a color, it's a frequency. It's a God frequency. They know that you are God, my brother.
They know, but for the greater part, we don't. Now this is the one. Hold on.
You guys name what?
This is the one. Beyond horrific, arrest this bitch witch today. This is what Hillary Clinton does. Viewer discretion is advised.
You guys need motivation to being raised for this whole Epstein thing? Take a look at this. Viewer discretion advised. So there's an eyewitness account online having seen this happen. Apparently this is what Hillary Clinton does. She'll take the face off the child while the child's alive, place it on her own face, and then terrify the child while it's still alive. Something has to be done about these people.
There needs to be action.
I agree. And I think I did this with White Jim. Think 1,000 times before leaving your kid alone with them. It's in my DNA. A right-wing Indiana racist, Johnny Knuckles, has been arrested for brutally raping a 2-year-old toddler, hospitalizing her. You understand where I'm going with this? Enough is enough. We're going down to the last one. Hitler arrested the Rothschilds in Germany in 1933, 38, and 40 and seized their assets. By taking Germany out of the Rothschild-owned banking system, he transformed Germany into a superpower. The Rothschild family had attempted to infiltrate America through its banking system from the day America was formed. They were blocked by President Andrew Jackson, but ultimately were able to gain control through the passing of the Federal Reserve Act. Nazi seizure ends Austrian bank power. And this is where you're getting all of this transgender, These motherfuckers are about nothing but destruction. Social destruction, social decay, social upheaval. White motherfuckers are not real Jews. They worship Satan. Nazi-free Rothschild seized bank. Hitler arrested Baron Louis de Rothschild. Hitler's seizures end Australian banking power. Hitler was a good guy. I don't go with what he did with the black people. What he did to them as experiments first. So fuck him. But he arrested these motherfuckers and killed them, hunted them down. From what I've seen, China has established a group of people who are going worldwide, started in Israel, to kill these fake ass Jews. I agree. I agree wholeheartedly. So as we go into almost the 4th hour, we're only 24 minutes away. I just want you guys to know that this is not a joke. America has its back up against the wall, is facing destruction by nature. Earthquakes, hurricanes, volcanic eruptions, all of that's going to happen in this year. Europe and Russia and Italy have all, well, that's part of Russia, that's part of Italy, has already been decimated. It's going to be continuing to be decimated. Africa has one more day before it is officially a United States of Africa, and it's on and popping. It's already done and said. Africa has its own payment system, has its own AfriCoin. The Global South has the unit along with BRICS, that the new currency called the unit, backed by 40% gold. America doesn't have any gold. Europe doesn't have any gold backing its fiat money. So what we're going to see is a death spiral, economic death spiral, political death spiral, spiritual death spiral, and physical death spiral for white folks around the globe. This is it. The world is quickly fading back to black. As you had heard, that young Chinese girl, everything was black. So I really appreciate you guys who are here, who are listening. And remember, for the next 24/7, 365, stay black and fuck all white folks. See you next Tuesday. Yeah, see you Saturday night at 8 p.m. Please like, share, subscribe, and tell people about the show. And don't forget about my book. This is book two, The White Man's Burden of Lies and Deceit, Understanding White Supremacy. And book one, dealing with why white people hate black people so much. The White Man's Burden of Lies and Deceit, available both on Amazon for about $20. And you're getting damn near 2,000 pages of really good, solid information. Facts. I don't give a fuck about your feelings and emotion. I don't give a fuck about my feelings and emotion. It is what it is. We got to face the facts, and that's something white folks ain't willing to do. Fuck them. Okay, we don't need them. They need us. All right? And so, for the next 24/7, 365, stay black and fuck all white folks. I'll see y'all on Saturday night. God willing.